All men are not created equal. I learned the meaning of those words firsthand. But let's skip the tragic backstory. I'm not here to force-feed you a sob story. I was just another underachiever, a nobody in both my past and present lives. Oh yeah, I died. I have no idea how or why. But hey, being reincarnated into another world, that's got to be my greatest achievement. After all, how many people can say they got a second shot at life? Now, my name is Yuta, a name given to me by an old woman who took me in. She had no children, and her husband had died in a villain attack. Yeah, villains. We'll get to that soon enough. Granny was kind to me, but she passed away when I was only 11. Rest in peace, Granny. She once told me she named me Yuta because I was her last hope to keep living. I never thought much of it before, but now I carry that name with pride. A familiar, yet different world. I've read reincarnation stories before, so I had some idea of what was happening. But the surprises didn't stop there, because the world I was reborn into wasn't normal. This was the world of My Hero Academia, a world filled with heroes and villains, a place where 80% of the population has superpowers, or as they call them, quirks. It all started with the birth of a child who could glow, and from there, quirks exploded across the world. Even animals and plants started mutating. And just like that, society turned into a genetic lottery. Some people were born powerful. Others had quirks that could make them rich, and then there were the unlucky ones. People like me. I was born quirkless, a statistical minority. And let me tell you, being quirkless in this world is hell. In anime and manga, it's played off as a tragic underdog story. But in reality, society crushes those without power. Jobs are scarce, bullying is rampant, and even the so-called heroes are often just chasing fame and fortune. I learned that the hard way. Granny left behind a mountain of debt, and when her possessions were auctioned off, I was forced to leave my home. I moved cities to escape the bullies, but life didn't magically get better. Sigh. At least I had one saving grace, my talent for drawing manga. Taking inspiration from stories I remembered from my past life, I started publishing my own manga to make a living. It's not much, but it beats ending up in an orphanage. For years have passed since then. Unlike most reincarnation stories, I didn't get all my memories at birth. They came to me gradually, meaning I didn't have some major advantage of knowing the full plot. And honestly, I didn't care much. I was just trying to survive. The chaos of everyday life. As I wandered through the streets looking for food, I heard commotion up ahead. Typical. In a world of superpowers, it's only natural that someone would use them for crime. Where there are heroes, there will always be villains. I turned the corner and froze. The entire area was on fire. Flames engulfed the buildings, the road was in ruins, and in the middle of it all was a massive, sludge-like creature, looking like MHA from Pokemon. Heroes were already on the scene, but they weren't attacking. I raised an eyebrow. What's going on? Then I saw it. The villain had a hostage. A young boy. Damn. Sucks to be him. Wait. My eyes widened as sudden memories surfaced from my past life. I frantically scanned the area, searching for two distinct colors, green and blonde. Then I saw him. Standing at the edge of the destruction was a frail-looking young man, his fists clenched in helplessness. A man I recognized instantly. All Might, or rather, his true, weakened form. And if he was here, then that meant. Before I could finish my thought, a voice snapped me out of it. Hey kid, stop. That's dangerous. I turned and saw him. A skinny, quirkless boy running straight toward the villain. My breath hitched. Izuku Midoriya, the protagonist of this world. A moment of suspended time. And then, everything stopped. Not metaphorically. Literally. The fire froze in midair. The people stood still, and the sounds of the city vanished. I looked around in shock. What the hell? Before I could react, a glowing window appeared in front of me. Choose life path. Hero. Villain. Civilian. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. What the hell is this? 14 years. For 14 long years, I waited for something, a system, a golden finger, a miracle. Nothing came. At some point, I had given up hope, convinced that this was my life now. And yet, here it was, a system that froze time, presenting me with three choices. Hero path. Villain path. Civilian path. What the hell was this even supposed to mean? I didn't have a quirk. How was I supposed to be a hero? But the system remained silent, waiting. Even time itself refused to move. I was frozen along with the rest of the world, only my mind active. This was probably the best chance ever to pull pranks on people. Too bad I couldn't move. Sigh. Guess this is the moment where a hero takes the leap of fate. With that thought, I chose the hero path. Ding. System activated. Hero path chosen. World. MHA. Power system. Quirks. Host can copy one quirk from any hero of choice. Does the host wish to copy a quirk now? I froze. Copy? I could copy a quirk. For a moment, my mind went blank. Then, slowly, a grin crept onto my face. I know exactly whose quirk I want. My eyes drifted toward a certain blonde, skinny man, standing just a short distance away. All Might. I choose to copy a quirk now. And just like that, everything changed. Izuku's leap of faith. Izuku watched in horror as the mud monster suffocated Bakugo. This is my fault. If he hadn't distracted All Might, this wouldn't have happened. His breath quickened, his hands trembled. But even as fear crushed his heart, one thought rang out. I have to help. Even after All Might told him he couldn't be a hero, even after the world laughed at him, he wanted to try. And so, before he even realized it, his feet moved on their own. Hey kid, stop. That's dangerous, someone shouted. But Izuku didn't stop. Because heroes don't stop when people are in danger. Power awakens. Acquired. One for all. Current time limit. 1 second per day. Time limit can be increased through tasks and quests. I blinked. 1 second? 1 goddamn second? What the hell was I supposed to do with 1 second of one for all? I barely had time to process my disappointment before another notification popped up. Ding. Mission alert. Save Bakugo from the mud monster. Reward. Plus 1 minute of one for all per day. I was about to complain, but then I realized this was exactly what I needed. 1 second wouldn't cut it. But 1 minute? That was a game changer. I gritted my teeth. No more wasting time. I need to save that bastard before All Might makes his move. I took off running. A gamble with power. The crowd watched in shock as not one, but 2 boys ran straight toward the villain. All Might's eyes widened. Midoriya and another kid. Izuku threw his school bag at the monster's eyes, creating a brief opening. But it wasn't enough. Tears ran down his face as he desperately clawed at Bakugo, trying to pull him free. But just when all hope seemed lost, "Move!" A voice rang out beside him. Izuku turned and saw a boy with black eyes and black hair, his body far more athletic than his own. Who? Before Izuku could react, the boy lunged forward toward the monster. 1 second of power. Shit, how do I even activate this? I panicked. I had never used a quirk before. And punching the monster? That was a death wish. If I went full power, I'd break my arm. Maybe even kill myself. No, I needed a better plan. I don't need to attack. I just need to get Bakugo out. That was it. I focused all my strength, grabbed Bakugo's exposed arm, and, one for all activated, 1 second. Boom. Power exploded through my body, my muscles screaming as I pulled with everything I had. Bakugo's body shot out of the sludge, freed in an instant. I had less than a second left. I twisted my body, swinging my hand through the air, not to punch but to create a shockwave. If Izuku could do it against Todoroki, so can I. Wham! A burst of air pressure slammed into the mud monster, forcing it back. Pain ripped through my arms, but they weren't broken. I'd done it. Bakugo was free. But there was one problem. My one for all time was up, and the monster wasn't down yet. A desperate escape. Gritting my teeth through the pain, I grabbed Izuku's wrist and yanked him up. Come on, run. Without waiting for a response, I dragged both Izuku and Bakugo away. Bakugo protested, probably wanted to explode the damn monster, but we had no time for that. The sludge villain was recovering fast. Just as it lunged, a shadow loomed over us. And then, Detroit smash. A massive fist came crashing down, and in an instant, the mud monster was obliterated. A single punch. The storm clouds parted, and the skies cleared as the sheer force of All Might's blow changed the very weather. And just like that, the battle was over.
Hey, everyone! If you enjoy my quantum audiobooks, you can support me by becoming a Patreon member. Your support helps me keep creating, and you'll get exclusive perks. You can also access my audiobooks directly through Google Drive. Check out the link in the description. Now, let's get started.
That punch was insane. Never seen anything like that. That was maybe the coolest thing Yuta had ever seen. And by others' reactions, they were the same, taking advantage of the chaos which All Might's punch caused. Yuta got out of that place. Not staying, there was a wise idea on his part. Vigilantism of any kind is not allowed in this society. The usage of one quirk is also frowned upon. Well, maybe he can get out of that situation if others know that he doesn't possess one. But still not getting into this pitfall is better. Prevention is better than cure after all. He directly ran to his new house, not waiting for anyone else. There was a possibility that he would be traced. It's not like he was hiding his face or anything. So that should be pretty easy. But he didn't do any crime for the heroes to waste their time just to scold him about not trying to be a hero. Anyway, he put that all aside and started to analyze his own powers. MCPOV. Alright, it seems like a pretty straightforward system. Every day I can use OFA for a certain time. Although I can't say for sure, but I should be able to use OFA multiple times a day as long as I have hero time remaining. That's what I'm calling it for the time being. But I can't say for sure. Let's check it out. Hero time name choose. Oh, that cool, I guess. Hero time 1 second, 1 minute. OFA. Host can use one for all for 1 minute per day. Hero time 59 seconds remaining. Aha, that's cool. That's also clear my suspicion that I can use OFA multiple times a day as long as I have hero time remaining. Let's try it then. Closing my eyes, I sense the power inside me. Surprisingly, this was not at all like how All Might taught Izuku. Clench your butt chicks and yell smash. I mean seriously. I didn't move though, just let the power go through my entire body. Standing in front of a mirror, I could see my hair fluttering as huge pressure came out of my body while veins were bulging from all over my body. Even before a second, I hastily stopped. Phew, I almost felt like I would blow up there. I mutter with sharp pain all over my body. After waiting and trying to massage my aching muscles, I once again was ready to use OFA. But the only problem is that I can't use OFA at 100% even if I am not moving. My body right now just can't take that kind of power. So I need to tone it down. I remember it took Midoriya quite some time before he even realized that only using his powers on one part of his body was a mistake. I won't make that mistake. I just need to spread the amount of power I can use throughout my body while also reducing it to the point where my body can withstand that power. Alright, let's try again. POV end. From that day onwards, Yuta started to work hard. He was getting daily tasks from the system, ranging from sleeping on time to training his quirk. And every day he completed this goal, he was given plus 1 second of hero time. Midoriya never got time to get used to his own quirk. His entire 10 months of training time, which he spent with All Might, was spent on just making himself a suitable vessel for OFA. Yuta didn't have to worry about that. He was already physically fit thanks to his paranoia of surviving the dangerous world without any quirk. Thanks to his anime knowledge, he knew how to develop his quirk. Now when he thinks about it, he is the 9th user of one for all, while Izuku is the 10th. Anyways, he created a simple routine for himself, his own American hero plan. Thanks to his anime knowledge and 10 months of additional time, he has much more time to master OFA than Deka has. And he's going to use that time for all that it's worth. So from that day onwards, his daily training began. He already was a martial artist. Again, something he learned for self-defense, not just in his world. In his previous life, too, he learned how to fight. So rather than continuing that, he ditches all the self-defense classes and put all of his free time in training his quirk. While this was happening, anime events also took place. All Might, after not finding Yuta anywhere, did go after Midoriya and ended up deciding to make him his successor. Finally, the day came when many of the youngsters who dreamed of becoming a hero gathered in one place. This was the most famous and influential hero school in Japan, the UA High School. This school have very strict admission criteria. Only 0.2% of the students can pass the admission exam, and rightfully so, as this is the best hero school in the entire country and might be in the world. Yuta found himself standing in front of this mighty institution. Finally, he is ready to take his first step to becoming a real hero. It's time to show that my hard work for the last 10 months was worth it, Yuta muttered to himself as he smirked a little and saw his hero status. That is what he is calling his bare-bones system template, which he has come to both love and hate. Hero time, 6 minutes remaining. Quirk's OFA. A smile appears on his face. This was the result of his hard work for the last 10 months, or roughly 300 days. The system from the day he got it started giving him all sorts of daily tasks. Some of his permanent tasks, which he had to do every day, was 100 push UPS, 100 sits UPS, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run every day. And of course, he wasn't allowed to use an air conditioner. Every time, he got an additional 1 second to his hero time. Hero time is the time limit on how long he can use his powers every day. It resets every day at night at the start of the next day. For 300 days, he didn't even miss a single day in doing his daily tasks assigned by his system, giving him an additional 5 minutes of hero time. He previously had 1 minute, so now he has a total of 6 minutes to use his quirk. Previously, he thought he will be working hard to master one for all, and even was ready to give up all of his self-defense training. But only later does he realize that he can't do shit with 1 minute every day. And this was the reason, although he had time, he couldn't master OFA at all. Just because he didn't have damn time to train with the quirk, even after having additional 10 months to train. God, now he sounded so stupid when he was planning to leave Deku to the dust on learning OFA. Don't worry, Yuta, you got this. Even after this kind of restriction, you got up to 5% OFA under control. That's a big deal. Just focus and you're going to be okay, Yuta mutters to himself. Social anxiety kind of eating him right now. Hey, are you okay? You were muttering something to yourself there. Suddenly came the sound, making Yuta turn and look who said that. But he didn't see anyone but just floating clothes. Girls' clothes. His mind started to turn. He remembered a character who was invisible from MHA. Hello, I am Toru Hagakure. Came a cheerful reply, which definitely sounded like a girl's voice. Ma, yes. Sorry, I was just a little surprised. You also here for the hero course? Yuta smiled and asked, not knowing where to look when talking with her. Toru was wearing shorts and a tank top. Yuta could tell there was nothing beneath. Considering that she might be going commando in the upcoming test, it kind of makes sense. Now, though that was not the important thing. Where the hell is he supposed to look when talking with her? There were no eyes to focus on, and no beautiful face to look at. The only thing he could see right now was those around C to D-sized delicious curves, which he was desperately trying not to gravitate his eyes on. I swear those things have some kind of gravity quirk. My eyes, it's hard to keep them up. Nice to meet you, Hagakure-san. I am Yuta. Just Yuta, got no other name, so just call me that, he said as he had gotten this problem with his name a lot. The name is fine, but the lack of a second name was the issue. Here in Japan, orphans do get some kind of second name, but he never stayed in an orphanage and never received a second name from his granny. He himself found it strange, but whatever. Not like he cared that much. Oh, that's a pretty unique name, Hagakure said. Well, what can I say? That's the only one I got, so I roll with it. Yuta cracks the most overused joke in his diary, but still, it makes a little giggle appear on her face. Not like Yuta could see, but he heard them. So there is that. So Hagakure-san, you're also aiming for the hero course, Yuta asked with a constant smile on his face, while also checking the other students, checking out the competition and all. Yes, Toru answered with a happy tone. Guys, I'm just going to use the most popular name for the characters from this point onwards. It's quite hard to remember this Japanese name, and I am sure many of you guys also can't differentiate between them. Honestly, this is the reason why I have trouble reading fanfiction about MHA or Coat. Those names are just hard to remember. Maybe it's just me, but yeah. As he was talking to the invisible girl, he also noticed a familiar face coming his way. This was none other than the protagonist of the show. Well, technically he himself is the protagonist now, but whatever. He saw Izuku coming muttering something in his usual creepy way. But he didn't care to talk with him. There was no point. In fact, if he'd rather not make contact with him for as long as possible. Having the same kind of power is already suspicious, while him being still labeled as quirkless is just an invitation to trouble. He doesn't want some hero knocking down his door to find out why he suddenly got a quirk like that. While remembering All Might's character from the anime, he won't do that anytime soon, but there are other heroes. Not to mention, there are also villains. Having a similar quirk to All Might will definitely bring attention to some sort of villains toward him sooner or later. He only hopes that it's not the worst kind. I think we should go, Yuta Toru said, as having trouble calling him with his name. The word itself is simple enough, but calling him by his first name on the very first day they met was a little strange. Should she also let him call her Toru? Yes, of course. The test should be starting soon. Let go Hagakure-san. Yuta and Toru together got inside the examination room. There are two distinct tests UA takes from its future students. One is a traditional academic test, done before taking the practical quirk exam, and the other was the one Yuta was here for today. The practical quirk test is to figure out whether a person's quirk is suitable for the hero class. Only after passing both tests, a student is admitted to UA. The fact that all students are here, meaning just like him, they have at least passed the academic test. But that is not as important as this next exam. Although the academic test is also important, but ultimately UA was a hero school, and power and the heroic spirit were the most cherished by this school. Yuta found himself surrounded by many teenagers of his age. Yuta, you don't mind I call you that, right? Toru asked. Of course, don't worry, Yuta replied. Then please call me Toru as well, Toru said as the invisible girl gave a beautiful smile, unknown to others who couldn't see her. Okay, but what were you saying just now? He asked. I am in a different section, so I will be going okay. Let's meet after we both pass the exam, said the girl with confidence, knowing that both she and him would pass the exam. Sure, I will see you later. Yuta too agreed, but unlike Toru here, Yuta knew the future. Well, at least to some extent. As long as he doesn't change many things, the plot should remain the same. Who I am kidding. What's the point of me being here if I don't change the plot? I won't be changing it too much, though. Yuta smirked as he finally entered the place where his test was about to happen. He quickly found 3 recognizable characters: Izuku, Tenya, and Achiko. So, I'm in the same field as Izuku, huh? Okay. Just keep some distance from Midoriya. All Might most likely will be keeping an eye on his golden boy here. Staying closer to Izuku means he will also attract All Might's attention. If there is one person who he doesn't want to interact with much, then it has to be All Might. After all, who can find out about him having one for all better than the man whose quirk it is to begin with? And thus he plans to not much interact with All Might even after passing the test and entering the UA. And if he stays close to Izuku, then it's just impossible to not get noticed by All Might. However, he doesn't plan to hide his true power for long, just until he's strong enough. Hey you, can you stop muttering to yourself? You are disturbing others. Yuta saw Tenya berating Izuku for his bad habit of muttering out loud in public. And although Tenya was scolding Izuku, even Yuta felt a little embarrassed here. After all, he was too doing the same thing earlier, just not muttering out loud for others to hear. He just shook his head, just waiting for the exam to start. Soon President Mike came and explained the rules of the exam. In short, students just have to go out and wreak as many robots as they can find. There are 4 different kinds of robots, giving 1 point, 2 points, and 3 points depending on how dangerous they are and how hard it is to destroy them. The last one, and the biggest one, though doesn't give any point. It's totally fine to just outright avoid it. But Yuta knew better, as the doors of the exam room opened, signaling the students to the start of the match. But no one moved. Everyone, including Yuta, was confused until he suddenly remembered what exactly happened in the anime. He was about to take action, but at this time, he saw a system notification. Major quest, first step of the hero. Quest, pass the UA high school entrance exam. Reward? Bonus quest, score the highest mark in the entrance exam. Reward? Yuta's eyes narrow. He remembered 10 months ago, and completing the quest gave him 1 minute of hero time. It was much better than the daily task assigned to him. He can't miss this. Man, I was thinking of lowballing here and just getting in the academy. But I guess that ain't happening anymore. Let go plus ultra then. Yuta smirked and got ready. Before Present Mike say anything about the start of the exam, Yuta took action. One for all 5%. Yuta muttered to himself as power rushed throughout his body. A blue glow was around him, just like how Izuku had the green glow. I only have 6 minutes of power. I better use this time correctly. Saying this to himself, Yuta made a beeline for the center of the fake city, which UA created for the test. Yuta has to say that if there is one thing which this school have in plenty, then it's money. Using 10 seconds of his precious time to get a head start was a wise decision on Yuta's path. Others took another 30 seconds to catch up with him. As he saw 5 small robots coming his way, he got ready, lowering his OFA output from 5% to 3% so that he doesn't damage himself. He rushes out. He might be able to handle 5% of OFA, but it's still wear himself out. And he was sure that 3% was more than enough to handle the small robots in front of him. He dashes toward the closest robot and delivers a roundhouse kick at his head, immediately gaining 1 point. Easily ducking as an attack from another robot, he went for an uppercut with an OFA punch. Boom! Another robot's head flew off. But he didn't stop there. More punches were thrown toward the other 3 robots, and with masterful executive movements, thanks to all the martial arts he had learned, he destroyed the 3 robots. Okay, that must be 5 points right there. Good, but can't go on like that. Need to go for 2 or 3 points from now on. Yuta muttered to himself as he calculated that he might run out of hero time before scoring the top marks like this. Thus, he had to be laser-focused on scoring points. As the UA entrance exam kicked off, Yuta wasted no time, immediately activating his hero time and pushing one for all to 5%. In a flash, he dashed towards the robot-infested testing ground, his heart pounding with determination. Within the first minute, Yuta strategically dismantled 5 robots with a combination of swift kicks, powerful punches, and well-timed maneuvers. Only by the time he was gone, when Tenya came with his top speed, only to find destroyed parts of robots litter the ground. They knew that someone had run out before them. Tenya thought that this person would surely be punished, but instead, Present Mike didn't play by the rules. Run. There will be no one to say, start to heroes, he says. Whoever ran first sure got a huge head start in the fight, but what he was not expecting was that person to be this fast. But he didn't waste any more time. Seeing that more people were coming, he once again started to run. At this time, Yuta scored more points, but the clock was ticking for him, as unlike others, he didn't have unlimited access to his quirk, and Yuta was acutely aware that his borrowed power had a time limit. With only 5 more minutes of hero time remaining, he needed to make every second count. As he surveyed the remaining robots, he spotted a cluster in the distance surrounding some examinees. The idea was simple: find where he can get the most points, and then by sheer power go and wreak havoc. Not only he will score points for killing that robot, but also score rescue points by saving others. Of course, he only went where he knew that the examiner needed help. Without hesitation, Yuta raced toward the threat, weaving through the battlefield like a seasoned hero, nothing to do with his quirk but his martial art. He strategically engaged each robot, utilizing the enhanced strength and speed granted by One for All. His movements were deliberate, showcasing a remarkable understanding of his newfound abilities. As Yuta continued to neutralize the robotic adversaries, his fellow examinees looked on in awe. But he didn't have much time to talk with them. Every second was precious for him. Scoring as many points as possible was the top priority. He wouldn't have been this stressed if only he had some more time, like around 15 minutes or 30 minutes. But 6 minutes is just too limiting. But he knows that even 30 minutes is too little. For a full-time pro hero, even having 8 hours of hero time might be not enough. Or maybe it would be considering he won't be using his quirk all the time. Whatever, the fact is that he needs more hero time is apparent. With each passing minute, Yuta's hero time dwindled, but he pressed on, determined to leave a lasting impression. The remaining robots proved to be no match for his calculated approach and the raw power of One for All. Yuta tactically decided to at least save 30 seconds of his hero time as a reserve. It's a good practice he learned to do after at least having 5 minutes of hero time. It was already hard to train with such a limitation of his quirk, but he still made a habit of saving a little bit of hero time just in case he ever had a life-and-death situation. But he didn't worry. Just by using 5 minutes and 30 seconds of his hero time, he was able to amass enough points that he could not only pass the exam, but with a good score. It's just that he can't come first. But he wasn't done yet. There are rescue points for some reason. This test was a 30-minute test. He still had a little around 20 minutes in his belt. Now was the time to target all those one-pointers which he was avoiding before. Those are easy to destroy, and even a quirkless person can do it like him. Not to mention going for all those rescue points. Huffing, he thought of first catching his breath before moving. The proctors and UA teachers observed Yuta's performance with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. The speed and precision with which he took down the robots were beyond what they had anticipated from a student. On paper, Yuta was still a quirkless, but he long knew that this would be an issue, so he wrote a letter to UA about his suddenly awakened quirk. Midoriya might not face any issues thanks to All Might being on his side, but Yuta has to take all of his steps carefully. This is no longer just an anime. This is his reality now, and anime logic won't save him. Whispers of amazement circulated among the examiners, and some exchanged impressed glances. Present among the proctors was Shota Aizawa, who raised an intrigued eyebrow as he monitored Yuta's every move. He noted the efficiency with which Yuta dispatched the robots, and made a mental note to keep an eye on this unexpected contender. Not exactly impressed by his quirk, but more by how the kid handled it. He was clearly very well trained in martial arts. Meanwhile, All Might and Principal Nizu, who had been closely monitoring the exam, found their attention shifting towards Yuta. He actually knew the boy. 10 months ago, when he found his successor, this boy was also there. Just like young Midoriya, this boy too moved to save young Bakugo. But before he could even talk with the young man, he ran away. Others didn't care, but All Might did, considering how the young man saved young Bakugo. Only later does he learn that young Yuta here is also a quirkless. So it piques his interest when a letter from the very same boy arrives in UA about him not having a quirk on paper, but actually possessing one as he found out in the last second. While their focus momentarily shifted to Yuta, All Might and Nizu couldn't help but keep an eye on Izuku and Bakugo as well. The trio of Yuta, Izuku, and Bakugo had become a focal point of interest in the exam. Well, Izuku was only for All Might and Nizu. As Yuta's hero time dwindled and the robots lay defeated around him, the proctors and teachers found themselves re-evaluating their assumptions. They sure didn't know that Yuta could only use his quirk for a limited time. Everyone was confused about why the top-scoring student suddenly stopped. But Nizu and All Might have their own thoughts. Yuta in his letter stated that his quirk was just recently found, and he doesn't even know what his quirk is capable of. So it's quite understandable that he has no mastery over his quirk. And if that is the case, then they have to comment on Yuta to score this well. That boy is doing much better than the one you were so invested in. Nizu looked at Yuta and pointed. All Might nodded, but didn't say anything. In this case, maybe both young Midoriya and Yuta were in the same boat. Both got their new quirks recently. He didn't doubt his successor at all. He believes that in time, Izuku Midoriya will be an excellent hero. After almost exhausting his hero time, Yuta had no other option but to go for easy targets like one-pointers and saving people. This confused many people, but after seeing Yuta actually saving others, he scores many brownie points from the examiners. After all, the examinees are not supposed to know about the rescue points, meaning many will overlook those in need, after considering this just being an exam and not a real situation. If only they knew that their choices here too matter. Deka didn't score anything in this exam in anime, but he still got a passing grade just after saving one person. Now this could be because he is All Might's successor, or it could be because he showed his real power and UA didn't want someone powerful like him to get away. As Yuta kept on saving others and taking down the few one-pointers remaining. He also notices some characters which he remembers from the anime, like an orange-haired girl who can expand her hands, a boy who can coat his body with silver to metallic coating. He remembered that those were from Class 1B. Yuta wondered what are the criteria which separate both classes. If possible, he would like to go to Class 1A. That is the main caste after all. Despite the fatigue settling in, he displayed a remarkable blend of strength and agility, all of his martial arts training finally paying off. Racing against the clock as they only had 30 minutes for this test. It always felt like he just hadn't scored enough. He carried injured examinees to safety, although there was nothing serious. It was just an exam after all. As he navigated the chaotic scene, Yuta's actions caught the attention of the examiners. His rescue efforts showcased a hero's heart. Oh, if only they knew. This earned him not only valuable rescue points, but also attracted attention towards him. At first, he didn't want to come into the spotlight, but now whether he thought about it, there is no way for him to hide how his system works. Considering he gets rewards for doing hero things, how can he hide and at the same time complete all the system quests? Whatever, if I can't hide anyway, then I would rather be the star of the show. Yuta grunted and once again ran to work hard. A hero's job is really hard after all. As the end of the practical test was nearing close, Yuta started to stay somewhere close to Izuku. The idea was to save Izuku when he was falling. If just like in the anime, he punched the giant zero-pointer. If things go like the anime, then he can save Izuku and earn more points. Beforehand, he wasn't planning on doing this, as he didn't want to go close to Izuku much. But now after knowing that there is no way to avoid the attention, why hold back? Izuku felt desperate after not scoring any points in the UA test. He had no idea how to use his quirk. He looked around, kind of upset, and a lot more nervous, searching for a robot to beat up. But then, he spotted Uraraka, a girl he knew from before, in trouble. Stuck under the debris, she was desperately trying to move and get free, but to no avail. A big, scary robot was heading straight for Uraraka. That's when something changed in Izuku. Once again, the heart of the hero inside him started to beat and took control of his body. His legs once again started to move. Decided it was time to use his quirk finally. With a determined look on his face, he started to run towards the giant zero-pointer, doing exactly what All Might told him. He clenched his butt cheeks and power started to rush in his body. With power way beyond his body capable of handling, he was thrown at the giant robot. But things didn't go exactly as planned. His punch was so powerful that it smashed not just the robot, but also one of its hands. Not to mention, he broke his 2 legs when jumping off. He wasn't feeling the pain right now, due to adrenaline, but it will limit his movements. But even that was not the problem. The real problem was that now he was falling from what he could only say from the height of 2-story building. Immediately, he tensed up and decided to sacrifice even his other arm to save himself. He had to time it right, or he was a goner. As the ground was approaching fast, he gulped and got ready. Down on the ground, the girl he saved, Uraraka, also wanted to save Izuku. With her gravity control quirk, she could save him. But before even Izuku could come close to the ground, with fast speed, someone appeared near Uraraka and jumped up, going as high as Izuku and grabbing him. OFA 8%. Yuta gritted his teeth considering the pain in his hands and legs. But he held it together and making sure that Izuku was secure in his arm, he got ready to land. He targeted to land at the wall, and not directly in the ground. The height was a little too much for that. Boom! As he hit the ground, he made sure that he used his legs and then again jumped to target the ground while still carrying Izuku on his shoulder. After saving Deku, Yuta didn't stay there for long. He put Izuku down and walked away. Izuku wanted to call out, but he was under so much pain that he couldn't even open his mouth. The running adrenaline finally ran out for him, and he was bombarded by the pain of 3 broken limbs. As the exam came to a close, Yuta was feeling pretty good about the chances of scoring the top. After all, he takes out many robots, maybe only less than Bakugo himself. He also should have gained many rescue points in the exam. The only irritating part about this test was the result would take a week to come out. Sigh. Hero time, 15 seconds remaining. I'm almost out of juice, man. I better don't run into any trouble until it's reset. It's strange, though, that even after the test, there is no system notification. Yuta mutters to himself, and starts to contemplate what's going on. Did he not make it? But how is that even possible? With the number of points he has scored, coming top of the ranking might be possible, let alone passing the exam. Is there something I am missing here? Yuta narrowed his eyes, trying to brainstorm any possible reason he didn't get rewarded. But after 5 minutes of knocking his head against a rock harder than All Might's abs, he gave up. Whatever, just wait. There's nothing I can do about it anyways, Yuta said and sighed. After coming out of the fake city created by the UA, he has to say that he can't even tell the difference. He looks around for the invisible girl, a very futile attempt on his part. He wonders whether she's moving around in her birthday suit or just left. But after remembering what she told him about meeting in the school directly, it's most likely that she left. Not bothering about the small stuff, he too moved out toward his home. A week later, Yuta, for the next week, got back to his daily natural routine. He wasn't getting the daily mission tasks anymore, but the habit of Saitama training was drilled inside him to the degree that he couldn't start his day without doing the light workout. Yes, now, that was pretty light for him. As the week passed, finally, a letter from UA came. Now he was sitting in his bed, ready to open his letter and check out his result. Okay, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If you can't pass, then try somewhere else, or maybe next year. Again, it doesn't matter. Keep going, he said to himself before he tore open the letter. That is another habit he developed, so he can accept rejection and any blow life throws at him. His motto was to approach life with no expectation, but still give out his maximum input. As the letter was torn open, a small device came out. In the next moment, a hologram appears of the man himself. All Might. Hey, young Yuta. Hope you're doing well. It's me, All Might. Yes, my young friend. From this year, I will be teaching as a teacher in UA. But it's not about me, it's about you. Congratulations, young Yuta. You have passed the entrance exam with flying colors, with a total score of 114, making you not only the top-ranking student this year, but the highest-ranking student ever, even beating my personal record. You have a very, very bright future ahead of you, young man. I will be waiting for you here in UA. Till then go plus ultra. Yuta stood there dumbfounded. I was expecting a high score, but 114, that's insane. I am a whole 37 points ahead of the second rank, which is 77. He muttered to himself, but then immediately took out his laptop and opened the official UA website. He needed to see the scoreboard for the entrance exam, mainly his own score. Wanted to see how much he scores in rescue points. He knew that he scored around 50 to 60 points in villain points. Meaning, did he get over 60 points in rescue points as well? As the website took its time, most likely because many teenagers like him right now trying the same as him. He was getting annoyed. And there it was. Villain points, 54. Rescue points, 60. So I really did get more than 50 on both sides. Amazing. At this point, I can only say that rescue points carry a lot. Most likely it depends on what kind of danger the participant saves the victim. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I just entered the class with a bang, Yuta said with a smirk and raised his fist high to show his victory. A hero's first step completed. Major quest, pass UA entrance exam. Reward, plus 54 minutes of hero time. Bonus quest, score top marks. Rewards, plus 6.0% of durability. Hidden quest, break UA record. Reward, hero music, passive skill, need no hero time. No hero is complete without a recognizable background theme. Whenever host doing anything heroic, people around him hear a particular hero music, making them feel in awe of host's sheer awesomeness. Whoa, that awesome, man. Not sure about the last one, but whatever. This is cool. Let's see what I got. Hero time, 1 hour, 54 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. Quirk, one for all, 10% under control. Passive skills, hero music. Hey, OFA 10% under control. Wasn't it was only 4 to 5 before? Yuta wondered, but then he saw the bonus rewards he had and understood. His own durability has increased by 6 points. Awesome. Yuta was elated after finding his new hero time bump up from just a mere 6 minutes to 60 minutes. That truly going 10x right there. So it was impossible that he would just sit back and relax for the next 3 weeks until his hero school commenced. With a whole 3 weeks of free time in his hand and an entire hour of hero time. He went under an OFA crash course, learning his very own version of the full cowling. He also realized that his body being able to handle up to 10% of OFA doesn't mean that he outright masters that power. What it means is that he will remain intact while using OFA at 10%. But that's all. That also was him living alone, and all the freedom attached to that came to his aid, knowing that he can't use his quirk with that output in the city. He quickly planned a short vacation. It's not even necessary to say that he wasn't actually planning to relax. The destination he chose was a very isolated place where he could use his quirk and master it. 3 weeks later, finally, the time to meet his new classmates and hero life came. Making his way through the long hallways of UA, he finally found his class. Class 1A. He still doesn't know the actual criteria needed to be assigned to Class A section or B section, but it doesn't matter anymore. He was assigned to the class he wanted, and that was enough for him. As he finds a classroom, a small smirk appears on his face. I really want to shout I am here, but that's too cringe. Man. As he entered the place, he saw many familiar, yet unfamiliar faces. Many characters were recognizable, but the fun fact was that he never met them before. He saw a blonde-haired boy with red eyes sitting at the end of the class like he owned the place, with his legs up on the desk, while another boy wearing glasses and berating the previously mentioned blonde boy. They were Bakugo and Tenya. Looking around, he also saw other characters like Momo, Toru, Denki, Mina, and Izuku. There were more, but Yuta can't remember their name correctly. Like the one with the naval laser, the boy with a hardening quirk and red hair, the boy who looks like a crow, the duct tape boy, and many more. Excuse me, came the voice of a kid behind him. Turning around, he found a green-haired boy with almost the same height as his, maybe only slightly smaller. This was none other than Izuku. Yes, Yuta could already tell what Izuku wanted to say. He had saved the boy 2 times until now, so what else would he say? You bastard. Before even Izuku opened his mouth, came the roar of one blonde-hair, explosion-loving kid. You are the one who intervened in my fight back then, shouted Bakugo. Yuta was more surprised about Bakugo remembering his face rather than his firecracker attitude. Listen to me, well, you extra. I don't need your help. You hear me? Another shout came. Oi, are you listening to me? Bakugo shouted. Did you say something? Sorry, I lost you after fighting back then. Do I know you? Yuta replied with a very fake, confused face. Izuku on the side was panicking. Thankfully, before Bakugo exploded, a voice came which made everyone settle down. This was none other than Aizawa. He was inside a sleeping bag for some reason. A yellow sleeping bag made him look like an enlarged caterpillar with very dry eyes. Now that we are all acquainted, let me see what you can do. We will be going through a series of tests to see how well your powers work, Aizawa said after the class settled down. Yuta wasn't paying much attention to the teacher. He was more interested in his new classmates. He knew that there were only 20 seats when it came to the hero course. Well, 40 of Class 1B is also included. If he got the entrance, then that means that someone else didn't make it. He was trying to figure out who. Of course, he will only look at the weakest characters, like Toru the invisible girl or that pervert guy who can use sticky balls. But they were there surprisingly. He just can't remember who was missing. Not to mention, he was berating himself on being so late. At least he would have more time to talk with his other classmates and form some connections. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He will have much time for that later on. Soon the class changed to their gym clothing and came to the training ground outside of the changing room. Now listen carefully. In school, you have to learn to do all kinds of exercises correct. Yuta, what was your softball throwing score? Aizawa asked. It was 86 meters, Yuta replied without thinking much. Good. Now do it again, but this time use your quirk. You can use your quirk however you see fit, as long as you stay in this circle, Aizawa said as he pointed at the circle. Why me? Yuta really wanted to ask, but realized that this had something to do with him scoring the top, even breaking the previous record set by All Might. Yuta, after giving much thought to it, could only come to this outcome in his mind that All Might didn't know about rescue points back when he took his exam, otherwise he might have scored more than 200 points. Or he was much like Izuku, King couldn't use his real power back then. While he was musing internally, he heard a notification from the system at that time. Minor quest, remain in the top. Quest, score the best and remain unbeaten. Reward, King Engine. Yuta, after reading this, was a little taken off. King Engine? Isn't this from One Punch Man? This is totally worthless. Hero time, 1 hour. 1 hour remaining. Quirks, 1 for all. 10% under control. Passive skills. Hero music. When acting heroic, background music will be heard by others who are witnessing your heroic movement. Yuta, what are you doing? Hurry up. Suddenly a voice came, bringing Yuta out of his stupor. He looked at Aizawa and blinked. There he did it again. In this regard, he was not much different from Izuku. Thinking too much and analyzing. But at least he doesn't mutter out loud what he is thinking. Oh, okay, sensei. Just getting ready. Yuta blushed a little with embarrassment, wondering whether Izuku feels the same. Turning around and masking his features, not even trying to look at his new class staring at him like he was about to show some kind of magic trick, he focused. Don't worry, just focus and do your thing. Maybe I can just take something from All Might's book and do this. OFA full cowling 10%, he mutters to himself, and then power rushes to his body once again. At this time, both Izuku and a blonde man hiding behind a wall sensed something. Something very familiar, but they couldn't pinpoint. Clench the butt cheeks and shout, smash, Yuta with all of his power while still staying under his controlled limit through the ball. Swoop. With a drastic change in air pressure, the ball shot out towards outer space. Or at least that is what Yuta thought, while others were wide-eyed at the sheer power shown by the top ranker in their class. Aizawa didn't even bat an eye, and in his phone, he and others saw how far Yuta threw the ball. 509 meters. Amazing. That's so powerful. That was so cool. That looks like fun. Others became chatty immediately, but then Aizawa was quick to shot them down from their high horse. You think it's funny, huh? Well, how about this? Whoever comes last will be getting expelled. Aizawa said, possibly snickering inside his head at the expense of his young students. First was the 100-meter run. Tenya and Azui were the first ones to be called. This exercise was pretty much made for a boy with a freaking engine built into his legs. Azui, with her frog-like powers, wasn't a match for Tenya, at least not in a race. Next was Uraraka against Ojiro. Before taking their place, the girl with gravity control thought of reducing her weight for the upcoming race. Ojiro's quirk was a little strange. He had a big tail. Yuta had no idea how that tail was going to help until he saw Ojiro breeze past Uraraka while hopping on his tail. What was he? A cartoon from Looney Tunes. Although this looked like a race between the two people, but it was not. The race was against time. Whoever completed the 100 meters faster would win. Momo uses her creative quirk to make rollers. Izuku didn't use his quirk and just ran. He was not that good either. Quirks like hardening or invisibility didn't work either. Soon Yuta and Bakugo were called together. Yuta only sulked but still took his position. He knew that Bakugo would use his explosion to increase his speed. This will be a good chance to check out his speed against him. OFA full cowling 10%. He got ready and a slight blue glow surrounded him. But this time, unknown to him, All Might hiding in the corner was very focused on him, because he could feel a very similar power in young Yuta. This was one for all. But how? All Might mutters with confusion. 1,000 of thoughts ran in his mind before shook his head. After all, there are many kinds of quirk in the world. It's possible for young Yuta to awaken a very similar quirk as one for all. He needed more information, and thus he refrained from contacting Yuta for now. Both Yuta and Bakugo got ready, and then, at Aizawa's signal, they rushed out. Bakugo, just like in the anime, extends his hands backwards and uses his explosion to propel himself forward like a jet engine or something similar. Yuta just plain old sprinted, but with the power of one for all. Using up to 10% was enough to not only completely outclass Bakugo, but even beat Tenya's record. He was almost like a black and blue blur as he covered the 100-meter distance in under 5 seconds, making everyone gobsmacked, even Bakugo, who pushed his best to beat Yuta, but there was no way. Bakugo might have firepower, but his mobility is still not as good as someone with OFA. He sends a murderous glare at Yuta, while the black-haired boy completely ignores it and slowly walks away. The classmates surely wanted to say something, but Aizawa didn't give them any time, calling for the next student and even sending a threatening glare at the kids. Like talking in his presence is a capital offense. Why all the teachers do that? Yuta really wanted to know. Maybe that is why none of his teachers like him. The exercise kept on going after that, like wrist strength, long jump, side hops, etc. Yuta excelled in all of them. His wrist strength was around 700 with just 10% of OFA. He came second in the long jump with Bakugo, as Uraraka just cheated with her quirk there. And so, she did with her softball throw. And then ultimately came Izuku's turn. This was an interesting show. He was sweating while getting ready to sacrifice his hand. Hero time, 56 minutes remaining. Yuta saw his remaining hero time, and there was a pleasant smile on his face. Only a month ago, he would have been either cursing at how little hero time he had or panicking. Aizawa erased Izuku's quirk before he completely destroyed his hand. Sighing, Yuta wanted to help Izuku, but wasn't sure whether he should. Teaching him full cowling early sounds like an enticing idea, but should he? He can make him strong, but what about his mental state? A person only grows when he overcomes problems. If Yuta gave him the idea now, there's a possibility he will hinder Izuku's growth, doing exactly the opposite of what he wanted to do. Sighing, he just kept his quiet. He needed more time to think about what kind of things he should change, and what things he can just leave alone. Hell, there are many plot points that he can't remember. Half knowledge is even worse than no knowledge. Izuku's heart was almost nearly exploding as his name came at the bottom of the list. Strange how he and Yuta both were users of One for All, yet the difference between their scores was like night and day. While Izuku was at the bottom of the list, Yuta's name was at the very top. Minor quest, completed. Quest, remain in the top. Reward, King Engine. King Engine. King Engine only rumbled during conflict when the host is excited. Besides the excellent side effect of destroying enemies' morale, King Engine also slowly recovers stamina and health, raising the fighting spirit within the host, while also pumping more blood within the host. Yuta's eyes immediately widened after hearing this. He wasn't expecting that King Engine would be this good. It's much better than what the original King had in One Punch Man. He honestly was expecting something pointless like hero music, which he got before, but this is not half bad. It would be totally worthless skill if it consumed his hero time, but it doesn't. It's a passive skill, always nice to have. Oh, about the expelling, I was joking. It was the only logical to do that to bring the best out of all of you, Aizawa said with a nasty smirk on his face. Everyone looked at him with annoyed looks. Yuta too would have. In fact, by Aizawa's looks, he would have considered him a villain if he didn't know how valiantly he fought to save his students in UA Trip. While this was happening, Aizawa left the students alone for a while. He needed to go and put in some eye drops. Behind the wall, he found All Might hiding from everyone. Joking, huh? You must be kidding. Last year you expelled the entire class, All Might said with a smirk. He believes that Eraser here also saw the same potential in young Izuku as he saw. I have no idea why you're so happy. He still can't control his quirk. The only thing better he did right now was take less damage from his own attack. At best, he can stay away from the hospital bed for a few more minutes. Compared to him, that other kid is much more adaptable at using his quirk, Aizawa said, and kept on moving. All Might at this had nothing to refute Aizawa's words. He was right. Yuta held a very similar kind of power, and his control over his quirk was much better. In fact, the little doubt appeared on his face. Did he choose wrong? It's not like he regrets giving his quirk to young Midoriya, but when it comes to talent, Yuta was better. Yuta too has shown his heroic side into the entrance exam when he chose to rescue other participants over scoring more. In fact, later Nizu suspected that Yuta only started saving participants when he made sure that he had enough points to pass the entrance, meaning he gave more importance to saving than scoring more. Even in the past, when young Bakugo was in danger, Yuta moved to help him. Back then, he didn't even have his quirk. Shaking his head, he just sighed It's not like there was anything wrong with the current situation. After all, both were able to enroll in the hero course. So it's a win-win. That was all for that day. The class was practically there to give this Quirk test, and nothing more. From tomorrow, the Real class are supposed to start. It will cover everything from normal high school studies to hero stuff. Yuta slowly made his way outside the school when he heard someone calling him. Looking back, he saw it was none other than Izuku. Maybe Midoriya also saw the same kind of power inside Yuta. Maybe he wanted to ask about his quirk to Yuta? Yuta-san. Izuku fumbled under Yuta's stare for a while, trying to muster what he wanted to say. He ran all the way here, considering that he was sent to the recovery girl after breaking his finger. It does make sense why he was huffing. Maybe another reason why he was stuttering has something to do with Yuta's name itself. Not having a second name means others have to call him by his first name. It's quite odd here in Japan to do that with a stranger. Yuta doesn't mind, but others find it pretty strange. You can call me Yuta, don't worry. Seeing the boy was pondering what to call him, Yuta first cleared that doubt. Oh, okay, Izuku replied. You have something to tell me? Yuta was wasting precious time with his guy, but still calmed himself down. Personal relationships are just as important as strength when it comes to becoming a hero. Yuta-san, I noticed that our quirks are very similar. I was wondering if I could ask for some help from Yuta-san. Yuta nodded with understanding. He already knew that this was going to be the case. After thinking about it, he decided, sure, do ask whatever you want to ask. I will help you out if I can. Yuta replied with a smile. He still wasn't sure how much information he should tell Midoriya, but helping him out would ultimately increase the chances of heroes winning, so why not? Major quest, a friend in need. Quest, help out Midoriya to learn OFA full cowling. Reward. Now I have no choice. Yuta, after seeing the notification from the system, closed his open mouth before he politely refused Izuku until he decided how much he should be involved with Izuku, All Might, and AFO. He can't remember the entire story. He never completed the anime. His broken memories only stretch up to Season 4. The last season was the most unknown to him, as later in the story more and more characters and backstories were added, making it hard for him to remember. This was the reason he wanted to give it a thought before changing anything. He wasn't worried or anything, but still the little leverage he had thanks to knowing the story would crumble away with him changing the plot. But now he decided, if he is getting stronger, then it's worth changing the plot a little bit. It's not like his action to make Izuku stronger will change the plot completely. He was hesitating only because he was unsure how the future would unfold after he made any kind of change. Time traveler shifting a rock, and the next second the planet is destroyed or whatnot. Okay, do you have time today, Izuku? I can call you that, right? Yuta checks out his watch, planning how to distribute this time now if he will be teaching Izuku. Maybe he can teach Izuku at the same time he trains in his quirk. That can maybe save him some time. Izuku, who was waiting for Yuta's response with a little embarrassment, considering he barely knew the guy, and yet he asked Yuta to help him with his quirk, was elated and stunned at the same time when Yuta agreed so easily and even called him with his first name. Looking at the boy checking out his watch, Izuku immediately replied, Yes, I do. Whatever time you are comfortable with at any place. Yuta gave it a thought after getting a confirmation from Izuku and decided, how about Takoba Municipal Beach Park at 5:30 today? It's pretty close to my house. What about you? Izuku, hearing the familiar place where All Might trains him, perks up and instantly agrees. Good, then let's meet there, Yuta said and rushed back home. There are many things he has to do when he has the time. Having time and a syllabus of what he will be learning is an advantage for him. Even after now having an hour of hero time, it was not enough to train for a long time in his quirk. He needed more time. He surely would get that time later on, as he kept on completing quests and getting rewards. That will be the time to go deep in his training. So right now, he has to focus on his studies and be head of the class by miles if he has to, so that he has time to train later on when he can. After going home and freshening up, Yuta rushed to the Takoba Municipal Beach Park. He has less than an hour to use his quirk and train Izuku in OFA full cowling before he has to return home and put all of his time into studying. As he arrived at the beach, he saw Izuku already waiting for him there. He suspected that Izuku's home was much closer to this place than his own. I hope that I'm not too late. Oh, no. I just arrived, Yuta-san. Call me Yuta. Okay. Yuta did speak up immediately. He wanted to first understand what exactly was holding back Izuku to using his quirk. But he needed to get that out of Izuku himself. After all, he is not supposed to know much about him and his quirk. You said that our quirks are similar, right? Can you please explain why you think so? Yuta asked. First, he needed to establish the fact that he could help Izuku. Although Izuku thinks that the green-haired boy is just winging it at best here. Because I can feel it, the power of both of our quirk is very similar, Izuku said with determination. Yuta wasn't expecting this kind of straight answer. Did Izuku ask for his help to find out more about him? Or was All Might behind it? He can't say, but for the time being to get the reward, he will play along. This led to Izuku explaining everything about his quirk to Yuta. Yuta acted like he was listening to Izuku, all the time nodding and humming to pretend. So let me get this straight. You just recently awakened your quirk, right? And this is the reason you can't control your quirk. You know what? We might be similar not only in just quirk, but the situation as well. I too just recently awakened my quirk sometime before the UA entrance exam. Yuta said and keenly observed Izuku's face. If Izuku is doing this on his own, then he has no reason to know about his information. But if All Might or someone else put him into this, then there will be a different reaction on his face. It's hard to read which reaction is what, but with his experience, he is sure that he can at least figure out something. Izuku, being a normal 15-year-old kid, also kind of helps there. And there was a look of utter surprise on Izuku's face. At least Yuta was sure that Izuku didn't know about him being quirkless before until now. I might know how to help you. I kind of have some experience with super late power type quirk awakening and damaging the user's body upon use. Yuta replied, and there was a smirk on his face. It wasn't that hard to teach Izuku. The guy is pretty smart as long as he could become a little more confident in himself. Izuku also went through the same problem as Yuta did. First, his body was not at all able to handle the full grunt of OFA. Bone cracking, muscle rupturing, and even more. Yuta went through the same process to master the power he has now. And he had more time and knowledge to train himself. Both kind of had their own good and bad. Yuta had more time to master the power, but ultimately when it came to time, he was far behind Izuku. He could use his quirk for only an hour after all, and that too after this long time. Yuta had knowledge of the plot and system on his side. Not like he was restricted to OFA. In future, he is sure that he can unlock more powers. Izuku, on the other hand, had All Might, while not like that idiot can teach him anything besides clenching the butt chicks and yelling smash. Maybe the only thing in which Izuku was superior to Yuta was his willpower and heroic heart. Yuta too agreed with this and long accepted the facts. Izuku could endure much more pain than Yuta, to the point that Yuta even suspected the boy was a masochist in secret. And, of course, the freaking reason why the symbol of peace even choose him. He really holds the hero's heart. Yuta, in comparison, which he too accepts, is a greedy person who mostly acts for his profit. Yuta felt a little conflicted about how Izuku was improving. It was clear to him that he would lose his top position soon enough if Izuku kept on growing. Thoughts like keeping the information about OFA to himself rise in his heart whenever he felt Izuku growing. It was a very natural thought, but humans are supposed to feel bad when thinking about this, right? Then why the fuck I don't feel shit? Could it be that I'm a scumbag? Nah, honestly, Yuta himself agreed that he is no hero material. There are tons of character flaws in him. The only reason he kept on helping Izuku was the quest. After all, it was a major quest. Those types of quests usually give better rewards. But Yuta wasn't expecting that it would take so much time. In the anime, Izuku was able to learn full cowling in under a week. But here he was still very far away from mastering it. Most of it has something to do with Izuku still not being able to handle OFA power. In anime, at least, he was able to hold back his power until he went and broke his arms or fingers. Here, whether he moves or not, he is breaking those bones left and right. Now that Yuta thinks about it, maybe all that martial arts and training really work out for him. Not sure how long I have to wait for this reward to come. Yuta sighed. He thought that he could get a training partner, but seeing Izuku taking this long time to learn full cowling, Yuta just ended up wasting an hour each day with Izuku to help him train. Well, he too was training, just not in his quirk. UA surprisingly was like any other high school. Fun when you're with friends, annoying and boring when with teachers. It could be also exciting if there's a lover. Unfortunately, just like the author, Yuta also lacks the necessary face, skills, and bank balance to pull that off. He got many male friends though, even female friends, just no potential ship. He didn't even try. Scars from his previous life were enough for him to bury his face 20 feet underground. Yo, Yuta, what are you thinking so much, man? You just days off like this during classes. Kirishima, the red-haired boy with a hardening quirk, came out of nowhere and put his arm around Yuta's neck like they knew each other for a long time. Annoyed Yuta closed his mouth before he refuted him, but although he acted annoyed, it was far from it. In the entire class, if there was a single student who he resonated the most, then it would be Kirishima. He was mostly like a normal teenage boy, much like him back then when he died. They both soon became friends and even gym brothers. Nothing, man, just contemplating how unfair life is. Again, talking like an old man. Do you get some kind of kick by doing that or something? Tisich, brats nowadays have no respect. Haha, that's so similar to my Gramps, dude. Are you sure you're fit for this hero stuff? You can go for an acting career, you know. There's not much difference between them. Yuta muttered under his breath, but Kirishima heard him just right. The boy might look a little hard-headed idiot, but he is pretty smart. He long realized that Yuta is not just any normal 15-year-old, but he is cool with it. As long as he likes similar hobbies, as in the same beliefs as him, he is cool with him. Even if I like the same girl as you. But did I say that out loud? No, but more like a whisper. If you weren't this close, then I wouldn't have listened to it. Oh. While bickering, which Yuta found himself doing a lot with Kirishima somehow, they were quite similar in many ways, like the games they like and talking about chicks. I'm entering the door like a normal person. That was the time when they all heard someone opening the door and a big man in a hero's costume enter the room. This was none other than All Might. Yuta observes the reaction of his teammates around him, and he has to say that they sure idolize him. Yuta is not sure how strong All Might is when it comes to global power scale. He is considered as the strongest only in Japan. There sure are much stronger quirks besides OFA. Like that one chick who can make rules or something. No, All Might was not that much adored just because he was strong. He was so popular because of his actions and his marketing. He has marketed himself as the pillar who is holding back all the evils. Which is not that wrong either. And the other part is him being a hero from their own country. All Might is famous even outside Japan. It's just that in Japan, his celebrity status is godlike. Students today, we're going to go battle training. Hero style. And you can't do that while looking like this, so All Might said and posed a JoJo pose. Yuta is very envious of that Hulkulian body of the blonde hero. If only he had a fraction of that physics. He could also do his favorite JoJo pose. Sighing, he looked at the fancy wall from where the hero costume suddenly came out. This school has too much money. After a little grumbling, he takes his hero costume, exits the classroom to change. After all, it's once again hero time. Finally, it was time for some real hero training. All the students changed into their hero costumes and came to the training side. All Might was already waiting for all of them, waiting for the new young heroes to introduce themselves to the world. Yuta thought quite hard about his own hero costume. Having no idea what he wanted, ultimately he chose to imitate something from the anime and manga he read. Man, you're ripped. What's your workout, dude? Ask other boys as Yuta took out his clothes to change. Kirishima might be the only one who was not surprised by his physique. He already has seen Yuta's physique, gym bros and all. Hard work and discipline. Nothing more. Yuta shushed away those boys who were muttering around him like bees and quickly got dressed in his hero costume. Everyone had their distinct costume, but what Yuta was wearing kind of stood out. Not because it was too flashy, but rather because it was a little too normal. As all the boys and girls gathered in the opening, the boys stared at the girls and their costumes, but maybe none more than a purple-head midget. Girls were more discreet about it, but Yuta knew that they were checking out many of the boys. Everyone was wearing the same kind of costume they did in the anime. so Yuta wasn't that surprised. The only person catching his eye was Momo. For those who know, they know. He, though, was discreet with his glare at her. Yuta, your hero costume. It's very normal. The first person who came to talk about his costume was the pink girl. Mina Ashido was her name, and maybe only the few girls he usually talk in the class. Her, Toru, and Uraraka. Yeah, I like this kind of normal clothes, Yuta replied as he looked at his own clothes. A tight red long-sleeve t-shirt paired with black baggy pants. There was also a black coat on his shoulders, which he was using as a cloak. Something similar to Metal Bat from One Punch Man. It looks good on you, Ajui said as Toru also arrived and looked at the bulging muscles in his tight red shirt. Let alone girls, even boys, gave two looks at it. It was even more enticing when the muscles were hidden by the tight red shirt. Yuta was going for that raw, punk look, if possible. He likes that look quite a bit. And apparently girls like bad boys. Izuku also came out with his green costume. Even Yuta has to say that he imitated All Might a little too much there. Today we're doing battle trials. Every student will be paired with someone, and they will be assigned either a hero team or a villain team. The hero team has to go into the building and either has to catch the villain team or touch the fake bomb that they're guarding. The villain team has to prevent the hero team from doing that until the timer runs out. All Might explained and then pointed at a box filled with balls with different numbers. Those who take out the same numbers will be a team. Taking out a ball for himself, he found he was in the same team as Toru, the invisible girl. Yuta-kun, we're in the same team. That's so nice, came a cheerful response out of nowhere. At least previously, she was wearing gloves. Now, there is nothing. Where I'm supposed to look. Grumbling under his breath, Yuta kept a smile on his face and replied, Yes, Toru-chan. I, too. I wanted to work with you since last time in the entrance exam. Yuta at this time, just make some requests from the system. Please give me some kind of power to see this girl. Please. Soon the fight started. Many of the fights in the anime he never bothered to see, or maybe they skipped it, he can't remember. Maybe he watched it but can't remember. Anything could happen. However, this time around he observed all the fights with much concentration. And although the fights were not boring, he just wasn't invested in those fights. His interest was only attracted when a popular character was on the screen, like Izuku, Bakugo, and more. He only remembers one fight from this entire arc, Izuku versus Bakugo. So he was even more surprised that this time around the team matching wasn't like that. He knew that there would be many changes he would be bringing in the story, and this was the first beside the student who couldn't make it into the hero course, no thanks to his own presence. He can't even remember who is missing. Next, Team I, Young Yuta and Toru versus Team D. Young Bakugo and Ida, All Might announce. We are against Bakugo. Toru immediately flustered. Anyone would. After all, Bakugo had a very explosive personality. Even someone like Yuta with OFA doesn't want to fight with Bakugo in narrow places like a building. Before he could say anything, he heard a voice. Minor quest. Quirk doesn't make the hero. Quest. Win against Bakugo without using hero time. Show the world that a hero is made by the actions he takes and not by the power he holds. Reward. Bonus quest. Take down Tenya. Reward. Yuta was stunned. What kind of quest is this? Not to use his powers. This is troublesome. Very troublesome. Earlier he was thinking not to fight that explosion maniac behind closed doors, but now he can't even use his quirk? Young Yuta, what are you thinking? Are you ready? All Might asked with his ever-present billion-watt smile on his face. Yes. Yes, I am, Yuta replied with a little hesitation on his face. Well, let's try it. If not, then it's not like I'm restricted to use hero time. I just won't get rewards, that's all. Do you have any plan, Yuta-kun? Came a little hesitant question from Toru. The battle test for his team was about to start, and watching the girls' antics in front of him, he knew that it was on him to come up with a strategy. I do actually, Yuta response. Really? That's great. What I'm supposed to do? Toru immediately asked with anticipation in her voice. At least he believed that it was anticipation, not like he could see her face. Well, considering the personality of our opponent team, I expect Bakugo to leave Tenya behind and go alone to fight us. I will block his way and fight with him. You go after Tenya, Yuta said and waited for any kind of question Toru had. But I can just go and touch the bomb, can't I? Yes, you can, but All Might won't be able to see you doing that unless you have your gloves on, meaning we can't pass the test if you touch the bomb. If you take your gloves, and then Tenya will see you. The only way to make this work is to take down both of them, or me to touch the bomb. To do that, we have to take down at least Bakugo anyway. Thus, you have to take down Tenya yourself. Yuta said, but knew that Toru had no way to take down Tenya. Even if she gets a blind shot at the boy, she won't be able to deal enough damage. Tenya currently is in his hero suit, which almost looks like armor. It looks like metal, but it's not. It is a special lightweight material, but it's still durable. Toru is nothing but a 15-year-old girl who others can't see. She can't damage Tenya. She in fact is not the kind of hero suitable for a frontal assault like this. Maybe a silent takedown, but that only after she is much more skilled in that. Okay, I will try, Toru said with uncertainty. Even she knows that this task is suitable for her. But the girl gave a positive response anyway. Yuta saw this and smiled brightly. Don't worry, I got you back, Toru. I know that you can do it. I believe in you, Yuta said with his best supportive boyfriend imitation. He actually practices it a lot back then. Shame he never gets to use it. Single bastard. Yuta's eyebrow twitched suddenly. He felt that someone was mocking his singlehood. With righteous fury, he left. Suddenly motivated to punch someone, good thing a certain blonde was coming right to him. If only he could have seen, he might have seen a sizable blush on the girl he riz. If only he could see. It was exactly what Yuta thought happened. Bakugo ditches Tenya, like in the anime. Though this time around he was not that angry, if that was somehow possible. Toru easily sneaks past Bakugo. And now only Bakugo and Yuta were left, facing each other, ready to fight. The plan was simple. Yuta will hold back Bakugo, while Toru will go after Tenya. Well, that is what at least Yuta said. In reality, though he knew that he had to handle both of the enemies, Toru can only assist. He wanted to keep Toru with him so she could provide some kind of support like a sneak attack against Bakugo. But it's most likely that the system will not reward him if she does so. He can't use his quirk, nor can get any help from his partner. You're going down, smartass, Bakugo shouted. He usually gives names to the people he interacts with like Deku or Half and Half. That was Yuta's nickname in his books. Actually, there was no distinct feature in Yuta that he could call something else. Besides being a little handsome, Yuta just doesn't have many distinct traits to stand out. But since when does a hero need to stand out to beat an enemy? An image of a Baldy appears in Yuta's mind. A smile spread on his face, and even after knowing that he wouldn't be using his quirk against the madman in front of him, Yuta got ready. Yuta's eyes were always on Bakugo's hands. Those were the only places where he could use his quirk. Seeing the coming Bakugo, Yuta started calculating. In the anime, Deku was able to precisely calculate his next moves, but he only could do that thanks to him knowing Bakugo for a long time. Yuta didn't have that luxury right now. Gritting his teeth, he rushes out. Bakugo immediately extended his left hand to blast. Yuta, not knowing what Bakugo will do, only comes up with a single outcome. Avoid the fist attack entirely to see Bakugo's range and how he's going to use his quirk in close quarters. So he acted like he was about to do a head-on collision, but in reality, he fell down and slid toward Bakugo, successfully avoiding the first blast from Bakugo. Bakugo was fast. He immediately threw another blast at Yuta, but Yuta, who was on the ground, turned his entire body and with his leg, hit Bakugo's extended hand and swatted away the coming blow. Stopping midway, seeing that Bakugo's guard was open, he went for another low kick, but at this, Bakugo used his other hand to cause an explosion which propelled him away. The aftershock of the explosion blasted off Yuta's back. Why he is not using his quirk, All Might wondered. Some quirks are hard to tell if are in use or not. Physical enhancement quirks are usually like that, but having a similar quirk like Yuta, All Might could tell. Yuta wasn't using his quirk for some reason. This was strange. Why wasn't he using his quirk? But for others, they couldn't distinguish between him using his quirk or not. Izuka this time wasn't in as bad of a state as he was in the anime. His body was mostly intact. Although he can't use full cowling till now, he can reduce how much power he uses, going up to 1% in one part of his body. He also noticed that Yuta wasn't using his quirk. He could inherently feel the same kind of power from Yuta as one for all. Yuta, on the other side, was once again at the disadvantage. He planned to get close to Bakugo and quickly take him down, but his plan didn't work. He also realized that there are a few things which are different from the anime, like Bakugo's blasts usually do not explode at his best power, the reason being them being too powerful for him to handle. Now thinking about it, it makes sense. Anime was anime, but in reality, how could Bakugo use a similar kind of boast to fly away and at the same time attack without being unmoved? Not possible. It was clear that Bakugo had to hold back his power, much to maintain his footing. Huff huff. Yuta was out of breath by now. He was holding on his own against Bakugo without using his core for the last 2 minutes. It doesn't sound like much, but in reality, that was already a big deal. Damn, I feel just like Izuku from the anime right now. Even after having the power to one-shot this explosion bastard, I can't do it. Deca wasn't able to because he would pretty much bang up his entire arm with one shot. I can't because I need that freaking reward. It should be some fucking good reward after going through all this. Yuta muttered to himself with agitation on his face. He saw Bakugo getting ready for another attack in Grim. His new hero costume was already burned and torn by that madman's explosions. But then his eyes widened like saucers. Bakugo didn't just extend his hand. His other hand also went for a small pin in the grenade-like gloves he was wearing. I have enough of you. Why you are not using your power, you bastard? You think that you can win against me without your quirk? Bakugo shouted. Yuta knew what this madman was trying to do. This was one of the aces he had up his sleeves. A very powerful attack which almost one-shot Deca back in the anime. Yuta panicked. No, young Bakugo, don't do it. That is way too dangerous. All Might from the side shouted. In the anime, Bakugo really went ahead and did it. But here he was hesitating. He was angry at Yuta for not using his quirk, and confused like others on why he wasn't using it. So, to push Yuta, he acted like he would be using one of his gloves. Although this was not more than a phrase for Bakugo, but for Yuta, he was panicking, rocking his brain to get a way out of this. Time slowed down for him like every second was stretching, and with each second he was thinking of many ways to stop Bakugo. But nothing came to his mind. Young Bakugo, I will be forced to stop this match midway if you don't put down your hand, All Might shouted from the side. Unlike in the anime, All Might here was thinking straight and knew that it would be very dangerous for Bakugo to use that level of attack inside a building. Dumb. While this was happening, both Bakugo and Yuta heard something. Dumb, 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 dumb. That's when Yuta felt it. His heart started to beat with intense power and speed, and there were trembles inside his entire chest. If the lack of chest pain or breathing problem wasn't there, then he would have thought that he had a heart disease. Dumb, dumb, dumb. Damn, are the drum of liberation finally about to play? He could feel that his perception was getting faster, like the world around him turned into 0.75x speed. But it was not Yuta who was the most surprised. It was people around him, Bakugo and the people watching him through cameras. There was a chill running in their back. Yuta's heartbeat was making them feel a sense of danger which they never have experienced. A foreboding feeling started to appear on their faces. Bakugo's eyes shook, and his extended arm was trembling. It was like the light itself was bending around the person standing in front of him. Damn it, he is the one totally battered and wounded. So why I am trembling? Their throats were dry. No sound came out of their mouths. Even someone like All Might was shaken at this time. He suddenly felt like he was fighting all for one. There was no evil feeling, but the pressure was the same, like the person standing in front of him was the biggest threat he had ever faced. Yuta, only weirded out by the strange beating of his heart and the sound, was the first one to snap out of the shock and saw Bakugo completely shaken. That was when he recognized it. King's engine, Yuta said with a little surprise. He almost forgot that King Engine is not only a sign that he is excited, but also in a very comedic way. It acts like Conqueror's hockey, making others extremely nervous and breaking their wills. This is my chance. Yuta perked up. Suddenly the fighting intent inside him rose. King Engine. activates when excited in any kind of conflict. Increased blood flow and fighting spirit. Low-level Conqueror's hockey effect. Yuta knew that this was the only chance he's gonna get. So he got ready. With all of his might and increased power in his body, he ran. Ran toward Bakugo. This time, he knew how would Bakugo act. Bakugo, being caught off guard, immediately acted. The fear in his heart wasn't gone, but he was now in a much better state than the momentary shock he felt for a few seconds. But still, Yuta caught him off guard, and rather than thinking, he did the most natural reaction his body could come up with. Bakugo naturally once again extended his hand to fire a blast, but Yuta was faster this time around, knowing how Bakugo would react after fighting him for the last 2 minutes. Yuta knew that he would either again raise his right hand to fire a blast. Most likely he's going to do this, or he would make the distance between them. Later would be the wise choice, but he just doesn't have enough time to think. And it is exactly what Yuta thought. Bakugo raises his right hand to blast at him. A slight smirk appears on Yuta's face. Just like Izuku in anime, Yuta precisely calculated Bakugo's movements and grabbed his hand. With a full body toss, he went all Brock Lesnar here and threw out Bakugo to his surprise. But that's not where he stopped. He still was holding one of Bakugo's hands, twisting it and earning a very satisfying groan from the boy. Yuta once again grabs Bakugo before the explosion boy goes on another explosion. And this time it was an entire body toss, Bakugo directly hitting his head on the floor. BAM! A complete knockout. Yuta saw the unconscious Bakugo lying on the ground with the stars roaming around his head. He blinked a few times, just pondering how these small stars were visible. Is this some kind of combination of the real world or the anime world? What is this anime logic? Or maybe he's the only one seeing those stars. After blinking 3 times, those stars disappeared, and now even Yuta started to question what he just saw. All Might, I think we need some medical support here, Yuta said with a little bashful look on his face. We are on it, young Yuta, but please refrain from hitting others this hard from here on. All Might responded quickly as he took action to send Bakugo to the infirmary. Haha, sorry. That's why I was holding back my quirk. Yuta responded once again with embarrassment on his face. Even to the end, he didn't use his quirk, but he did receive enhancement thanks to King's Engine. Now he only prays that this is not considered as using the quirk, and he receives a reward for all the trouble he went through. He didn't ponder too much about it. He wasted too much time here. If he didn't hurry, then he would run out of time, and the villain team would win by default. So with that said, he all but launched himself towards the 3rd floor where the bomb was. Toru finds herself in a troublesome situation. Even after studying Tenya and trying her damnedest to not laugh at his ridiculous villain acting, to which she even succeeded, she can't find a way to take down Tenya. Tenya Ida is a speedsters-type hero. He is pretty fast because he has an engine built in his legs. Not to mention he is pretty studious. Many classmates like him. Toru was no different, but right now this boy was giving her a tough time. There was no opening in front of her. Without strong attack power, she can only choose to target Tenya's weak point to deliver a powerful blow. Good thing that she has the element of surprise on her side. But the problem is, Tenya's hero costume is like a knight's armor. There is no opening for her to exploit. Knowing Tenya's personality, he should also know that Toru is most likely to target her with a surprise attack. So although Toru didn't notice, even while he was acting like an idiot villain, Tenya was observing his surroundings with much attention. Knowing that there wasn't much time on her hands, she chose the most suitable plan. Slowly sneaking behind Tenya, she made sure that what she expected was correct, and then quickly grabbed Tenya's helmet. With a full power pull, she gave her all to take off the helmet from Tenya. And it worked too. Tenya didn't have any attachment on the helmet. Maybe it was an overlook, or just the design of the helmet didn't allow it. Doesn't matter. As long as there is an opening, she has a chance. So the moment Tenya's helmet came off, she threw it out of the window, and once again, thanks to her invisibility, hid herself away by not making any noise. Tenya was waiting for something like this to happen, but still, he wasn't able to do anything. He also quickly calculated why Toru went for his helmet. There really wasn't much for her to hit in his armor-like costume. But even now, it won't be easy to beat him. He was covering his face and was on guard. Toru already tried touching the bomb, and sure it didn't work. All Might couldn't see her touching the bomb. At least she needed her gloves here, but that would be enough for Tenya to spot her. Tenya, on the other hand, was the same. He knew that if Toru, sneaking in and touching the bomb, was passable, then there was no chance for them to win the battle. But since this long time has passed, it means that that wasn't the case. Tenya internally thought, why didn't he install some kind of thermal detection on his helmet? Surely an upgrade now in his mind. Toru attacked, there was nothing else she could do, and she even succeeded in that, but that was the problem. There wasn't much strength behind her attacks. It was not even like she learned some sort of martial arts. She only had a little strength training in the past, which didn't help her that much. She was only saved up to now, even after her attack Tenya, thanks to her invisibility and her agility. It was embarrassing for her to think that even in the entrance exam, she had a problem taking care of those robots. She was never attacked back, robots never saw her, but in the end, her lack of attack power held her back. It was really hard for her to score as much as she did. It was dangerously close to ending time. She gritted her teeth and once again launched herself towards Tenya, but before another attack connected, and this time Tenya was even ready to take the attack just to grab on at Toru, the gate of the door opened with a smash. It was none other than Yuta. He of course used his full cowling to increase his speed and came here. Upon locating Tenya, he didn't waste any more time. With all of his speed, he rushed out. It wasn't like he also had to hold back his quirk against Tenya for the reward. Tenya was too surprised at this speed to move, not to mention thanks to the interruption, Toru's attack connected. 5% smash. Yuta instantly came near Tenya with all his speed, but before attacking reduced the power, so he didn't hurt Tenya. Boom! But even 5% was enough to blast Tenya back towards the wall, and Tenya went tumbling backwards. But Tanya wasn't finishing with this. He quickly stood up, ready to fight. Well, Yuta was not in any mood to fight. There wasn't much time left. With all of his speed, he appears near the bomb and touches it. Winner is the hero team, All Might shouted. Phew. Minor quest. Quirk doesn't make a hero complete. Main quest. Defeat Bakugo without using hero time completed. Reward, Drunken Fist. Alcohol can solve all the problems. All you have to do is give it a try. Bonus quest, beat Tenya. Rewards, 5% OFA control. Yuta didn't care about the incivil girl bouncing on his side. He would have been if only he could see her. If only. But right now he was much more interested in his rewards. At one point he thought that he ain't going to get anything because of how King's engine activated on its own, but now he was just happy about going the extra mile and not using hero time. He even wanted to get some alcohol to recreate Jackie Chan's famous drunken fighting scene, but he couldn't get any until he was at least 21. This is Japan after all. As he was walking out of the building, he called for his status to see how strong he is right now. Status. Hero time. 1 hour, 58-minute remains. Quirk. 1 for all, 15% under control. Passive skills. Hero music. King's engine, Drunken Fist. That's awesome. Nothing like King's engine or anything, but I still like it. It's a good improvement. Yuta nodded to himself with a little satisfaction on his face and smiled. As both he and Toru came outside, he saw many other students waiting there for them. They were filled full of questions. Man, you were awesome back. I will kill you, Smartasis. Kirishima was the one who opened his mouth first, wanting to congratulate his friend on winning, but before that, a certain blonde shouted and rushed at Yuta. Yuta and others were caught off guard. Thankfully, All Might was there. Just before Bakugo jumped on Yuta with his palm full of explosion. All Might stopped him by grabbing him and throwing him back like a rag doll. Well done, young Yuta. You have performed fantastically. You too, young Toru. All Might just praised Hero Team a little before asking others who the MVP of this fight was and what could have gone wrong or the other way around. I believe that Yuta is unconditionally the MVP of the fight. Momo was the first one to say anything. Besides Izuku, she is the second best when it comes to analyzing fights and quirk usages. Probably Tenya is the third, or maybe Yuta. Many of the other students also agree with Momo's assessment. Then, All Might gave his own insight into the fight. Young Bakugo, you need to control your temper. Young Tenya, better villain acting? Young Toru, put on some muscles and try using high-durability transparent glass weapon. You can make a request later from the school. And lastly, young Yuta, you have to learn how to use your quirk more effectively. All Might said, but he himself was not sure. He was observing Yuta very closely. From the beginning of the fight, he was totally focused on Yuta, not like there was anywhere else to focus on anyway, an invisible girl and all. All Might could say for sure that while fighting with Bakugo, for some reason Yuta wasn't using his quirk. Strange because at best All Might thought that this had something to do with his control over his quirk, but later on he punched young Tenya, and although the attack was strong, nothing seriously injured Tenya. So Yuta shouldn't have a major control issue. Then there was also that terrifying aura for a second when Yuta was fighting Bakugo. That sounds like a giant's heartbeat. All Might really is not sure. Maybe he alone felt like that. It happened for only a second maybe. So he didn't talk about that anymore. From there on the fights continued, and Yuta was once again only interested in important key figures like Izuku or Todoroki. Especially Todoroki, that guy is a little too strong. Yuta was wondering, can he win against Todoroki with his only 15% OFA mastery? He wasn't sure. It wouldn't be like how Izuku's fight with Todoroki went in the UA Sport Festival. Izuku was using 100% OFA, which was completely unnecessary, of course. He didn't have any choice, but just on account, Yuta can say that with Todoroki's quirk and his power. As long as he is using 20% full cowling, he has a pretty decent chance of winning. But only if half and half is only sticking to ice. If he uses both fire and ice, then maybe 20% won't be enough. There's another powerful quirk too in his class, like Tokoyami's quirk Shadow. Others don't know, but thanks to his anime knowledge, he knows Shadow's weakness. It's light. But besides that, there weren't many powerful quirks. After the class ended, Yuta knew that Bakugo would come after him, but not much because Yuta beat him. Bakugo is not that bad at handling failure, but he would rather target him for two reasons. One for King's Engine, which even surprised Yuta for how suddenly it came out, let alone others, and the person who experienced the full frontal assault of King's Engine. And second, because he didn't use his quirk against Bakugo. Wait, you bastard. Here we go again. After the trial battle, everyone had some idea of where they ranked in the class. Although no one would ever say it out loud in many of the classmates' eyes, they have already targeted them as the elites. From that point onwards, the classes went on pretty similar to any normal school. The only difference here is that after the normal academic, the rest of the time was spent on hero stuff. Today was the same, but upon reaching the UA building, Yuta saw the entrance crowded with reporters. Oh, it's already that time. Interesting. There's no talk about a school trip, though. Maybe today it will be announced. I'm looking forward to it. Hope things go similarly to canon on this one. Other things can change, but All Might coming for the students' rescue in time was essential. If not, then most likely they're all doomed. Shaking his head and removing all the troublesome thoughts, Yuta looked around, trying to find a way in. Seeing that there was no opening, he just sighed. Walking up to a wall, Yuta squatted a little before jumping up. OFA 8%. Jump. Masterfully, he was able to jump up high enough to jump across the high wall. But he didn't know that there were sensors all over the place. The moment it senses Yuta crossing the wall, the defensive system is about to activate. But only because the sensors also sense the student ID Yuta was wearing, they didn't go off. Not like they would have been fast enough to stop Yuta anyway. Not knowing what he just did, Yuta made his way toward his class, only to find that his classmates having the same trouble as him. As he walked to his class, he once again found all the similar familiar faces. He ignored most of them, just directly walking up to his seat and sitting down beside Tenya. His seats were in a particular place where he was surrounded by all the boys. Just his rotten luck. Thankfully, Kirishima was sitting in front of him, so that was good. It was a good time to talk with him. It's been over a week since school started, and no matter how hard he tries, his daily schedule and the distance between the academy and his house don't allow him to come early. He barely has time before to say good morning before Aizawa enters the class. Today was no different. Okay, settle down. Today we're doing something important, Aizawa said upon entering the class, and this led many people to start chatting among themselves. Are we going to do fight training like earlier? Maybe we're doing a rescue drill. OHOH, I know. We are thinking about our hero names. What more important could be? Yawn. Yuta on the side just yawned as he found the class very boring, knowing that there won't be anything interesting happening for the next half an hour. A hero's time is important. I need to utilize it correctly, Yuta thought, and after making himself comfortable and of course hiding behind Kirishima's figure, Yuta fell asleep. Yuta! Yuta! Yuta, wake up! Yuta woke up with a jerk. With groggy eyes, he looked around the class, only to find that the entire class staring at him. Moving his head, he saw Aizawa also looking at him with a little annoyed face, but mostly bored eyes like he didn't care. What's going on? Yuta asked as he shamelessly yawned in front of others, not even trying to hide the fact that he was sleeping in the class. Congratulations, you're the new class representative. Hope you complete your job before sleeping the class. Aizawa said offhandedly and left the class. Yuta was stunned. When this happened, he never agrees to this. Which bastard voted for me when I was sleeping? Although Yuta demanded a reselection for the representative position, all his pleadings fell on deaf ears. Yuta just groans with irritation on his face. His workload just increased out of nowhere. No one like that. Sighing and accepting his fate, Yuta just accepted the fact. After the class, he went out to get something to eat. The reason he was so sleepy because he was on a roll with studies lately. Mainly because he didn't want to waste time later on in studying. Thanks to his time limit issue, Yuta could only train himself for an hour or so. Well, less than an hour, as he also has to use his Quirk in class. He knows that this will change in future, and that will be his time to train more. Wasting time when in studies will be idiotic. As he was talking with others, mostly time passing, they all suddenly heard an alarm going on all of a sudden. Yuta was expecting this. And then the entire school was pooled into chaos. Yuta was expecting this too. He just kept eating his lunch while others were rushing out of the place. Yawn. I seriously need to get my sleeping cycle on track. Can't fight like this with the villains. Finally, the day when the entire class was visiting the USJ, Yuta found himself sitting on a bus while looking over his classmates. Being the class president was the worst thing that had happened to him. Hey Yuta, why are you looking like someone stole your property papers? Kirishima was the one to say this. I hate this job. I would rather just sleep on the side. Why, I am the president, Yuta complained from the side. Grumbling, he also heard Azui, the frog girl, talking about how Izuku's quirk is so similar to All Might. Of course, this made Izuku immediately flustered. While we were talking about it, I believe that Yuta's quirk is very similar to All Might. Just not as powerful as him, Azui said. Yuta didn't care. He long realized that he couldn't hide this fact. The way his system works, he just had to showcase his own quirk more and be in the limelight. So there is no point wasting time to hide it. The overall situation in the bus was nice, though. He really liked it. It's been a long time since he felt like that. He usually doesn't interact with many people. Even in class, he limits his interaction with only a few people. Why? Because he sucks at conversation and at making friends. Well, not exactly. He's just bad at making many friends. The few he makes, he cherishes them. Soon the class reached the USJ. It was a huge disaster simulation place with all sorts of artificial disaster places to train young heroes. All the students, like little ducklings, follow behind Aizawa until they meet Hero 13. Yuta wasn't sure whether this hero in front of him was a man or a woman, but whoever he was, his quirk is really powerful. Black hole, Yuta mutters with a little raised eyebrows. It's a shame that 13 didn't have much control over her own quirk and had to live inside that astronaut suit. Otherwise, that quirk would have been a menace on the battlefield. After followed was 13 taking students to 2 different disaster sites. Yuta pretends to listen, but majorly focuses on his surroundings. There is over 90% chance that this time, too, the League of Villains will come. And if that is true, then he better be ready. He gave a lot of thought to this upcoming confrontation. As much as he observes his system still now, he can say that his system usually tends to give him quests which put him in the limelight, making him the center of the attention. So he created all of his plans according to that. Unfortunately, he can't remember exactly what happened here. So the complexity and certainty of the plan were questionable at best. With his limited knowledge, he knows two things. One, that there is a teleportation-type quirk, and a Nomu is involved with a bunch of low-level thugs. Second, that teleportation guy scatters the students around. With this much information with him, Yuta can only try not to get teleported away and take down that teleportation guy as soon as possible. Or if he got teleported away, then, without wasting much time, take down all the thugs as soon as possible and come back to help Aizawa. While thinking, he suddenly felt it. Snapping his head, he saw a blackish-purple portal opening out of nowhere, and from there came the villains. 13 takes students to safety, Aizawa immediately shouted. Seeing the villains coming out, both the pro heroes got alert while the students were still confused. Yuta quickly countered the number of enemies while that whitish-blue-haired boy was giving his villain speech. They all do that, overconfident, and give heroes time to turn the tables. There are 70 of them besides that blue-haired man with a hand on his face, the teleportation guy, and Nomu. Those low-level thugs were just distractions. Yuta knew that even if he took down all 70 of them, it would make no difference. It was pointless. As long as Nomu stands, the heroes and students don't have any chance of winning. Having a basic understanding of the situation, Yuta pondered over his main target. Attacking the thugs is useless. Attacking that blue-haired man, let's call him Man-Child for the time being, is also troublesome as Nomu will come running for his aid. So as long as it's not proof one-hit kill, he can't target the Man-Child. So it comes down to only one person. Yuta snapped his head at the teleportation guy. He has black smoke coming out of all the places in his body. Knowing the nature of his quirk, Yuta knew that normal attacks wouldn't work on him. But it can't be invincible. There has to be some kind of place where he can hit. So he observes the teleport guy with much attention. That was when the teleport guy acted, coming directly at the students to teleport them away. Of course, he also has to first handle the black hole Hero 13. Yuta didn't make any moves, while Aizawa rushed out to handle the thugs. Yuta remained focused on the teleport guy. After seeing the Kugojiri making his move, Yuta also took action. He is sure that this villain doesn't know anything about the student's quirks. So the teleport guy won't know which student could be dangerous and which he can handle. Just when the teleport guy was in front of him and he was about to attack, he long saw the little metal neckband around his neck. He can't remember whether that was what his weakness was, but considering that he has to wear it, it's definitely worth checking out. But just when he was about to attack Kugojiri, he heard a notification. Just about time, Yuta rolled his eyes. This was, of course, the quest from his system. Without this, he didn't have any particular guidelines on how to act, mostly who to target first. Major quest, first exposure to evil. Main quest, defeat Nomu. Reward? Secondary quest, Kugojiri and Shigaraki. Reward? Bonus quest, save everyone, prevent serious injury. Reward? Yuta, after hearing this, almost wide eyes. What kind of situation is this? All those quests are hard as hell. Defeat Nomu. Hell, even All Might needed 300 punches at his peak to handle that Nomu. How will I, with my mere 15%, will do anything to that monster? Capture both Kugojiri and Shigaraki, mostly talking about that Man-Child and teleport guy. Are you for real? That is equal to the outright end of the entire story here and now. And lastly, save everyone, which mostly prevents serious injuries. Well, that too is pretty hard. There's 70 villains all around the place. There is no way he can stop all of them in time. All his predetermined plan was shaken by now, and only pondering how he going to complete even one of those quests. Unfortunately for him, he in his thinking didn't even see Kugojiri moving, and few students took action against him. 13 even attacked, but Kugojiri used his quirk to backfire 13's own quirk. This finally brought back Yuta from his pondering, but he was too late. Darkness consumed him, and the next second, he found himself teleported away. He landed on his feet and looked around. He found fire everywhere. No doubt that he was in a disaster location prepared for fire rescue. Looking around, found a few of his classmates with him, like Momo was there and the guy who worked on Sugar Rush. But he doesn't care. Time is of the essence here. He needs to beat all the thugs around him and then move on to save others. Hell, he's not even sure whom to target first now. Saving the students sounds like the best idea. According to his understanding of Aizawa, he can at least handle himself until Noma himself attacks him. All right, no point trying to come up with a better strategy. Time right now is more important than a perfect plan. Yuta mutters to himself and turns on his quirk. Hero time, 1 hour remaining. OFA 15%, full cowling, Yuta mutters, and then with a blue aura oozing out of him, he almost vanishes from his place, laser focus on taking down the thugs in front of him. Years of self-defense training came into action, and in front of both Momo and other classmates, he took down more than 20 people in record-breaking time. Yuta faced off against a group of thugs menacing, threatening innocent bystanders, aka his classmates. He moved with a speed and precision that left the villains bewildered, swiftly incapacitating them one by one. His punches packed a wallop, sending thugs flying as he defended the vulnerable. Yuta's focus was unwavering as he strategically took down each opponent, his movements fueled by a sense of duty and justice. And, of course, the rewards. Despite the overwhelming odds, Yuta's determination never faltered. He fought tirelessly, drawing upon the power of one for all to overcome every obstacle in his path. In just under 3 minutes, he took care of 20 thugs. Nothing more was needed than a 15% OFA punch in the gut to knock them out, but not to kill them. Momo, take others to safety. Stay away from the place where Aizawa-sensei is fighting. Yuta said, and then he was gone. With the first wave of thugs dealt with, Yuta wasted no time. He darted across the USJ grounds, his senses sharp as he sought out trouble spots. Spotting groups of thugs menacing students, he raced to their aid, his every movement a blur of speed and strength. Yuta's actions intentionally avoided any places where stronger students were transferred, like places with Bakugo, Todoroki, etc. It was just because he had faith in them to come out abstract. Not to mention, he also has to save time. After all, saving student is not that important, although there is always a possibility that they can get hurt, but it was only an assumption. The real target is always Aizawa. He had no idea how to beat Nomu, who he was currently only doing the bonus quest for the time being. In record-breaking time, Yuta covered every corner of the USJ, ensuring that no student was left behind and no thug remained a threat. Once he was done with clearing out the thugs, Yuta ran towards the... As Yuta arrived at the center of the USJ, he found Eraser's head still fighting the thugs. But he wasn't looking very good. He was out of breath. There were small bruises on his body, but nothing major. And to Yuta's relief, Nomu and the other 2 major players hadn't acted against Aizawa till now. Before entering into the fight, Yuta looks around. Finding that the majority of students are fine and already has arrived and regrouped, he sighs. Okay, at least that takes care of the students. Yuta muttered, and then looked at the remaining time he had left. Hero time, 48 minutes remaining. So once again, Yuta activated his hero time and rushed in, this time to help out Aizawa. As Aizawa was panting and struggling to keep his quirk open, he finally started to take damage. Just like that, he soon was about to get stabbed by a knife when the thug was suddenly punched away from his place. Aizawa could have dodged that attack, but he knew that he couldn't keep this up for a long time. He was never a head-on type of fighter in the first place. He was a silent takedown kind of hero. But when he saw the villain flying out of nowhere, he was stunned for a second, and only after realizing who this was he spoke. Yuta, what are you doing here? Go and stay with other students, Aizawa said with much authority in his voice. And watch you become a punching bag for them. No, thanks. I am not asking you, student. This is an order, Aizawa said with a little irritation. Order denied. What kind of hero I will be if I can't even save someone in need? Yuta immediately took out one hero line from his vast library of dialogue he remembered from some sort of media he had consumed in his previous life. Despite Aizawa's orders to stay back, Yuta couldn't stand idly by while the thugs threatened the safety of the students, and above all, to get his rewards he at least had to prevent any serious injury from happening. With a determined resolve, he refused to follow Aizawa's command, instead choosing to stand shoulder to shoulder with the hero. Yuta knew that every moment counted, and he couldn't bear the thought of leaving the students vulnerable to the thugs' attacks. Ignoring Aizawa's protests, he joined the fray, his fists clenched and his determination unwavering. Together, Yuta and Aizawa fought fiercely against the thugs, their combined efforts proving to be a formidable force. Unknown to him, his actions were making other students join the fight as well. Exactly the opposite of what he wanted to do. With each punch thrown and each thug defeated, Yuta's resolve only grew stronger. He refused to let fear or doubt hold him back, knowing that the safety of the students depended on his actions. Though technically none of the thugs so far are any threat to them, his attention was still on the Nomu and two idiots beside him. This was the time when Shigaraki finally started to get irritated and ordered Noma to attack. Noma, go and kill that brat. That was enough for the huge monstrosity to move with lightning-fast speed and come in front of Yuta. Yuta's eyes widened at this. The speed was much faster than he could act on. Yuta, with all his power, put up his guard, but the attack came. Even Eraser's head wasn't fast enough to stop the Nomu. Boom! With a powerful attack, Yuta was thrown back. Due to his OFA at 20%, the max he can draw without seriously hurting himself, he wasn't seriously hurt, but his hand hurt like hell. In fact, he was only intact right now because Noma didn't attack at his best. Though Aizawa wasn't able to block the Nomu, he was able to stop erasing his Quirk, making him weaker for a few seconds. Yuta landed and hurriedly shook his hands to make the blood flow in them again. The attack just now was just a little too much for him. Finally, the Nomu was on the move, making him tense and others also vigilant of him. Looking around, he found that after he got attacked by the Nomu, some of his classmates came to help just like him. Izuku, Bakugo, Todoroki, etc. Did Tenya go to bring help? Yuta didn't see him. Gritting his teeth, he moved. Currently, he was the only one who could handle that Nomu. Maybe Todoroki could if he got serious, but until then, he had to help. Yuta, are you okay? Aizawa asked while still staring at Nomu, his quirk making sure that the Nomu can only use his physical power and no other quirks. I am, Yuta shouted and ran towards Nomu. With Aizawa suppressing him, Yuta had a chance. While it took 300 full power punches from All Might to beat Nomu, that was when Nomu's shock absorption was on. But if he has a shock absorption off, then there is a chance for Yuta's 15% to do the same. Bakugo, Izuku, Todoroki. Go after that teleport guy and that blue-haired bastard. Leave the black guy to me, Yuta shouted. Knowing that technically only Nomu here poses any kind of danger to the students, he will personally go after him. Not to mention it is his quest after all. Don't tell us what to do, bastard, Bakugo shouted. Sigh. I'm not ordering around. That is the only way to handle this situation. Both of them have quirks which I can't handle with my close combat hand-to-hand fighting. So go and handle them while I handle the Blackbird here. Yuta remained calm and explained everything to the others. Aizawa-sensei, please use your quirk to slow him down. I don't know what quirk he has, but I will be needing your help. Yuta shout, and then after activating his 15% OFA, rushed at Nomu. As Aizawa's quirk nullified Noma's abilities, Yuta and Izuku seized the opportunity to spring into action. At first, Yuta wanted to go alone, but who made Izuku the idiot strong-headed protagonist? But Izuku wasn't as good as Yuta. He hadn't figured out full cowling yet and could only use up to 5% of OFA in one arm, and that too hurt like hell. But still he was going strong. With determination blazing in their eyes, they unleashed their powers to hold back the Nomu. Yuta tapped into the strength of One for All, while Izuku channeled the power inherited from All Might. Together, they launched a coordinated assault on Nomu, delivering powerful blows in an attempt to subdue this seemingly unstoppable creature. With Aizawa's powers, the Nomu was restrained, but it wasn't working. Only 15% wasn't anywhere enough, not to mention Izuku's 5%. Despite their combined efforts, Nomu proved to be a relentless adversary. Its sheer strength and resilience were beyond anything Yuta and Izuku had faced before. Although the shock absorption quirk wasn't working, but those damn muscles kind of absorbed all of Yuta's punches, even at 15%. The biggest problem here was time. Yuta had limited time on his hands to use. He was burning his hero time real quick. But he can hold on for some time. At least enough until All Might arrives. The real problem here was Aizawa. He can only hold up against Nomu because Aizawa is backing them up, but Aizawa can't do that for long. As the battle raged on, exhaustion began to set in for Yuta and Izuku. Despite their unwavering determination, they realized that they were outmatched by Nomu's overwhelming power. Every blow they landed seemed to have little effect, while Nomu's onslaught grew more ferocious by the second. With their options dwindling and Nomu showing no signs of slowing down, Yuta and Izuku knew that they were facing a dire situation. The only good thing here was that other students were taking care of both the teleport guy and the man-child. As the fight was going on, it happened finally. Yuta knew that Aizawa couldn't keep using his quirk forever, and eventually, he had to close his eyes to stop his quirk. He was exhausted by that time. The moment the suppression lifted on Nomu, both Yuta and Izuku were overwhelmed. With insane speed, a powerful punch came at Izuku. Yuta, with his 15% OFA, was able to see it and acted. He can't let anyone get seriously wounded here. So he came between Izuku and the upcoming punch and blocked the attack, aimed at Izuku. Boom! This attack was strong, much more powerful than the previous punch which Yuta received. It is worth saying that even while fighting with Nomu earlier, Yuta was either avoiding or parrying Nomu's attack. Try not to come in contact with those powerful punches. Nomu was tall like All Might level tall, and All Might is very tall. And he was more muscular than All Might. In simple terms, he was a monster with his almost inexhaustible stamina and power. Yuta flew out directly at the wall, getting plaster in the wall, his arms broken. Fuck, he let out a scream. Izuku, seeing this, immediately calls out for Yuta. Nomu wasn't done yet. He was about to launch another attack at Izuku, but before he could do that, his entire body ended up freezing. This was Todoroki. After the noise of Yuta colliding with the wall, he immediately turned around to give aid to both Yuta and Izuku. Yuta almost fell into a daze. It was like he was about to lose consciousness. And just under seconds of him hitting the wall, he ended up passing out. Seeing that Yuta passed out, Aizawa was about to ask someone to take him back when a portal appeared near Yuta. Aizawa's eyes widened, and he on instinct turns on his already exhausted Quirk to stop the teleport guy from teleporting away from Yuta. But that wasn't enough. After failing, Kiriguri didn't try again, but ordered Nomu to target Aizawa. Izuku on the side was gritting his teeth. He wanted to use more power, but his body wasn't working. No, I need to do something. Do it. It doesn't matter if it breaks my bones. I need full cowling right now. Izuku almost shouted to himself and once again activated his quirk, but this time he wasn't limiting the power to only one body part. Thanks to Yuta's training, he long was able to use OFA at 2% to 3% power, but that was only in one part of his body. He still wasn't able to do full cowling because he didn't have the mastery over his quirk as he did in the anime when he first used full cowling. So, Yuta told him to first master how to use up to 5% power of OFA without full cowling. Clearly, he did have the time now. He couldn't even go beyond that, as without OFA supporting other parts of his body, he's sure to break something. But now he has to push his limits and by force activate full cowling. Yuta slowly opens his eyes, and there seemed to be sounds ringing in his mind. Yuta had no idea what was going on, but one thing was sure. The pain was almost killing him at this time. He tried to move his hand, but a sharp pain rang in his body, making him silently groan in pain. He didn't want to move anymore, just wanted to stay still so he could avoid more pain. Not like it would be working for him, but staying still indefinitely was better than moving at this point. Man, I feel like my bones have pulverized. What kind of punch was that? Did that Noma guy eat shock fruit or something? Yuta mutters under his breath, well, more like cursing. And there was this one thing ringing in his mind. So he finally once again opens his eyes to see what's going on. And there he saw what actually made him conscious. A system notification. Major quest. A friend in need completed. Main quest. Teach Izuku Midoriya OFA full cowling. Reward. Yuta read the notification, and immediately his mind went back to the only ongoing quest which he still hadn't completed. It was teaching him OFA full cowling. He didn't bother to read the entire thing right now. Had to get out of this wall first and join the fight. Looking around, he notices that Izuku and others were still fighting Nomu and other villains. Seeing that they weren't looking that different, Yuta could at least say that it wasn't long since he fell unconscious. Maybe 5 minutes at best. Gritting his teeth, Yuta tried to move. Try to help them, but the pain surge in his bones was unimaginable. Slowly getting up, he started to move towards the place where the fight was happening. Now that he thinks about it, Yuta realizes that it shouldn't even be 5 minutes before he loses consciousness. After all, none of his classmates help him out during this time. Yeah, maybe I was down for like 10 seconds at best, he mutters as he also notices not many people move from their place. How much juice do I have left? Hero time, 41 minutes remaining. 41 minutes, is that enough? Technically should be if All Might comes in time. But what about defeating the Nomu yourself? Pursing his lips, he wasn't sure. 15% OFA wasn't enough. But there are other ways to stop Nomu, like killing the person who is ordering him around. Killing both the man-child and that teleport guy should be enough, right? But he looked at the teleport guy getting harassed by a few of his classmates. The other guy was just complaining at this time. Yes, Yuta decided he had to take care of that blue-haired man-child. As much as he saw, he knew this much that the guy's quirk worked on his touch, mostly his fingers. So he planned to stay away from that. Slowly sneaking at the man he was about to attack when a portal opened behind him, he was planning on killing the man-child with one kick, as his hands were all but broken. But he didn't expect that teleport guy would spot him. An unexpected attack came to him out of that portal. It was none other than Kirishima punching, and he came right from the portal straight at him. Boom! As Izuku, Bakugo, and Todoroki fought desperately against Nomu, their combined efforts only just managed to hold the creature at bay. After Yuta was blasted off towards the wall, they made sure to avoid every and all kind of attack from the Nomu in front of them. Despite their determination and skill, Nomu proved to be an overwhelming opponent, its relentless attacks pushing them to their limits. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, Yuta and Kirishima devised a plan to strike at Shigaraki from behind. Sneaking up on their target, they prepared to deliver a decisive blow that could turn the tide of the battle. After Kirishima punched Yuta wanted to just kick him out of USJ, but he somehow held his anger in. Fortunately, it was not like the teleport guy found him. It was just a coincidence that he sent Kirishima here and nothing more. So he explains his plan to Kirishima, and both move at the same time. But before they could act, Nomu reacted with lightning speed, shoving Izuku and the others aside as it lunged to protect its master. How the hell did he even know that they're going to sneak attack that man's child? No one knows. With a fierce determination, Nomu aimed a devastating punch at Kirishima, threatening to crush him under its formidable strength. Caught off guard by Nomu's sudden intervention, Yuta once again was in this situation. Shit. He didn't have much time to stop Nomu. The only good thing here was his target was Kirishima. Maybe the only guy who could take Nomu's punch and won't get seriously injured. And just like Yuta expected, within seconds Kirishima hardened himself to the degree that he could survive the attack. As Yuta saw Kirishima flying out, definitely not hurt, but turned into a baseball with a home strike. Yuta gulped as he looked at the beast who sent him flying. Seeing the enemy in front of him, Yuta couldn't help but clench his fist. There was a tremble in his heart. Dum dum dum. 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 Dum dum. Once again Yuta heard the sound which flipped the tables for him when last time was facing Bakugo. The moving Nomu freeze just for a second at that point. Dum 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 dum. The sound of his own heartbeat started to resound all around, gaining attention as people were stunned when they saw Yuta standing with his broken hands and panting in front of the giant Nomu. Those with weak will started to feel fear against Yuta thanks to King's engine, but opponents like Nomu were different. At best, Engine was only able to stop Nomu for a few seconds. And just as he thought, Nomu broke out of his daze within seconds and again raised his hand. Boom! Everyone saw the punch landing and thought the worst for Yuta. Their hearts were tight and their eyes were widened. But there was no blood, no flying Yuta, no scream of pain. Something wasn't right. Geez, I should have read this before. Glad that it got the auto start. Yuta suddenly said as his mouth curled up. He had his one hand up in his fist and blocked the upcoming punch of Nomu with just the back of his fist. Like a certain hero, he remembers. Dum 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 dum. The rate of heartbeats increases. Blue glow appears around Yuta. Wild blue lightning came out of his body as his black hair and eyes turned blue. There was a bright blue aura around him. Let's check this out, shall we? Yuta smiled and raised his other hand, making a fist. Boom! This punch was even better than Nomu, launching him backwards. Nothing close to what Nomu did to Yuta himself, but it significantly creates distance between Yuta and Nomu. What? The man's child's eyes widened. The teleport guy, too, was gobsmacked. Nomu was engineered to go against the likes of All Might. No mere child can just punch him to back him off like that. And they too weren't the only ones who were surprised. Everyone in the USJ who saw Yuta punching Nomu back saw this. Dum 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 dum. That included with the King's engine. Many of them started to tremble in their heart, making them take one step back in fear or just caution. I thought King's engine is good, but this... Yuta smirked as he saw the notification which he earlier dismissed without a second look earlier. Prime time. Temporarily reach your 100% of your true potential. Activation criteria death threat. Heals all the wounds and temporarily brings back the body to its best state. Hero time consumption drastically increase depending on how much energy is required to bring the host to his peak. Cool down 1 month. After effect. No hero time renewal until the host completely recovers. Active status. Alpha 100%. King engine 20% max boost. Hero theme active. Hero theme drums of liberation. Kind of works with his heart still pumping like that. Yuta felt the power in his body, its power oozing out of him. His broken arm was fixed, and he could sense the power in them. No, he could sense power in all of his body. But he didn't have time to think about this right now, because he saw a timer beside him. Prime time, 3 minutes left. Damn, almost 40 minutes of hero time convert into only 3 minutes of prime time. My best guess is to divide the time exactly by 10 and then reduce 1 minute for healing my arms. Gritting his teeth, Yuta got ready and rushed forward. 3 minutes, that's all he had. He has to make it count. So with all his might, he rushed forward. And rush he did, almost vanishing from his place, turning into a flash and colliding with the Nomu. The place he left behind was almost divided into two with utter destruction. Dum 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 dum. People at this time were shaking at the enormous momentum of Yuta's release. Earlier King Engine only slightly affected others who were weaker than Yuta, but now that Yuta's current state was stronger than everyone present, as he was working on 120% of OFA. Everyone had fallen into a strange, and they were stunned. At the same time, it was not helping that they were hearing the drum like lightning in the sky, making them shudder as their hearts started to skip a beat. Aizawa's eyes widened even after they were dry as a desert. Izuku, Bakugo, and Todoroki were looking at Yuta with stunned self. Their mental power and experience weren't enough to resist Yuta's current enhanced King Engine. And other classmates? They were slag-jawed and had dumbfounded looks on their faces. At this time, they were not seeing Yuta as a peer. They saw a powerful being in front of him. Someone heroic. The heroic theme working behind the background was also an issue. The dumps playing were really hyping the entire situation. That with Yuta's new look had them left more anticipated for the upcoming fight. Boom! That was the time the door of the USJ exploded. A huge amount of dust flew and a single tall figure appeared in front of everyone. But unfortunately for All Might, not many were looking at his heroic entry. They were much engrossed right now with Yuta. All Might too. Yuta, on the other hand, after vanishing instantly appeared near Nomu. He was completely serious and also a little anxious as he was currently in a time crunch. Let's name this move. Aura, 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 aura. And just joking. Alpha 120 overdrive. Limitless smashes. And then all but his arms blur, like completely became invisible. And to other surprise, even Nomu was the same. His hands to become a blur. From the audience, only All Might was able to follow both Nomu's and Yuta's movements. It was astonishing. Currently, Yuta's punches were exactly like his. Not like his prime, but still so powerful that it was creating shock waves even after most of the power was absorbed by Nomu. Yuta could feel it. It was slow, but Nomu's shock absorption was slowly chipping away. Dum 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 dum. 100 full power punches. 200 full power punches. 300 full power punches. Yuta felt it. He was near. Hi-ya. Suddenly power surged inside him. Like the power which was handed down to him awakened and rushed throughout his body. Knowing that he doesn't have much time, he was ready to give his best. His body bulged as muscle bulk up for a second, giving him more power. Hi-ya. Boom. Major quest. First exposure to evil completed. Main quest. Defeat Nomu complete. Reward. Sharingan, 3 Tomo. Secondary quest. Capture Kugojiri and Shigaraki incomplete. Compensation. Playlist of most popular songs from Earth. Bonus quest. Save everyone completed. Reward. Plus 30-minute hero time. Blinking, Yuta called out for his status. Hero time. 1 hour 30 minutes, under cooldown for next 2 days. Quirk. Need hero time. 1 for all, 15% under control. Sharingan. Passive skills. Doesn't need hero time. Hero music. King's Engine. Drunken Fist. Prime time. Yuta checked out his status, and a smirk appeared on his face. He couldn't wait to get out of the hospital and check out his cool new eyes. Sharingan. He always wanted to have them, and when combined with OFA would give him an incredible boost in future fights. But now that he thinks about it, is Sharingan really that useful? There's no ninjutsu here in this world, so it's not like he can copy them. Can he copy Quirk? At the same time, there's also the Jinjutsu thing. Technically speaking, Jinjutsu only works by interfering with an opponent's chakra network. People here don't have that, so will illusion work? Yuta frowns a little. Only after testing out he can figure out what are the limitations of a Sharingan. He does know that these eyes will consume his hero time instead of chakra. He also wants to know whether he could improve his eyes to Mangekyo or Eternal Mangekyo level. Will he go blind if he opens those eyes? There were many questions, but there were no answers, Sai. That was not the only thing he got his quest. There is a 30-minute increment in his hero time. Definitely worth it when he sees there is one more power in his arsenal, which will consume his hero time. He once again fell back to his hospital bed with a thump. Just woke up a few hours ago. That time he was visited by some of his friends. Needless to say, they had much to say. Something like Yuta turning into Super Saiyan and punching that Nomu until he sent him flying. Apparently his last punch was so strong that he really sent the Nomu flying much like All Might did in the anime. They also talk about dumb beating when Yuta was fighting. Yuta just smiled and didn't react to anything. He most likely going to have to explain his quirk powers after this. He just defeated a villain whom even All Might would have had a hard time dealing with. And then there is also the issue with the League of Villains. He alone completely has rendered their plans useless. They're not going to forget this. He most likely is going to be in their shit list from now on. Now that he thinks about it, he even wonders whether All for One will consider him as All Might's successor. It's very much possible, and if that is the case, then he needs to get stronger. Real fast and real quick. 3 days later, he only bothered leaving the hospital once his hero time is working again. He realized that although his prime time is an extremely powerful and life-saving ability, it has major drawbacks. Firstly, it's hard to do anything in that limited time. But that is not the real problem. The real problem is him losing his hero time for a few days. Sighing, Yuta entered his class. All the students were shouting and making noises. But the moment he entered the class, it was a pin-drop silence. And then, as the dam broke, everyone rushed at him with questions in their minds. Yuta, you're finally here. Gosh, Yuta, you were amazing. How did you do that? There were shouts and only amazement in their eyes. The image of Yuta cloaked with a blue aura and lightning around him fighting with that giant Nomu who even towers over All Might with those awesome drums playing in the ground. It was amazing. So heroic. Yuta smiled and slowly answered all the questions. Of course, he gave the made-up answers he just prepared beforehand. It almost exhausted him just answering their questions. Soon Aizawa entered the class. This time he wasn't a mummy. At least that was a good thing. And then Aizawa declares the next big thing which they have to do. It was a UA sports festival. Yuta knew it. That was another arc he remembered pretty well. And maybe one of his favorite arc out there. Later on, the other class visited to declare war on Class 1A. Excitement filled the air as all the students gathered for the UA sports festival. The atmosphere was buzzing with energy, and everyone was pumped up for the upcoming rounds. Yuta, too, was very excited about the upcoming rounds. This arc of the anime gave him the same kind of feeling that he first got when he saw the World Martial Tournament in Dragon Ball. It was never about killing or saving, but pure martial arts. Pure fighting spirit. He always likes Dragon Ball for that reason. So needless to say, he was super hyped right now. As the students arrived, they greeted each other with smiles and high fives, eager to showcase their skills and abilities in the competition. The prospect of facing off against their classmates in a series of thrilling events had everyone on the edge of their seats. But it wasn't all sunshine and roses either. Just like what the other classes exclaim, "This is war." Their performance here will result in what kind of image they showcase to the world, and more than anything after this arc ends the 1-week training under other pro heroes begins. Now the hero killer arc has nothing to do with him. As long as he doesn't have a reason like the system giving him something cool, he ain't gonna go against that madman, but getting a good pro hero for his internship is important. In this regard, someone like Izuku doesn't have to worry at all. He has all the contacts of All Might. Yuta has only himself and his meta-knowledge to rely on. So quest or no quest, he's gonna do his best. The anticipation was palpable as they awaited the start of the first event, fueled by a mix of nerves and adrenaline. As Yuta arrived, he saw many of his classmates looking anxious and hyped for the upcoming fights. Now, unlike them, Yuta knew what would be the test, so there wasn't much excitement in him. He was rather worried about the plot changing. He could only hope that the plot of this arc stays intact. Only then he will be able to take advantage of his meta-knowledge and save his first position in the sports festival. Yuta-san, are you sleeping? The first round is soon going to start. It was Izuku who said this. He, just like others, was very excited about the upcoming fight. But the same enthusiasm wasn't present in Yuta. He in fact was yawning and was in a sleep state. No, I'm awake, don't worry, Yuta said with a half-smile. He was keeping a little distance from his peers for a while actually. After he took care of Nomu from the USJ, people from UA asked God knows how many questions. He was able to convince them that the power he brought out back then was only a one-time thing, and he could only do that in a life or death situation. And even after that, he loses all his power for a long time. His hospitalization worked very well in that. So they're suspicious about him being much more powerful than he was showing was gone, but that doesn't mean that they're going to forget that. The same explanation he has to provide to the students of his class as well. He was keeping his distance from them because they kept on asking about the fight. He long explained everything, but they kept on annoying him. He saw that there was still around 10 minutes before the first round started. He was about to go back to sleep, but that was when no one was disturbing him. But that couldn't be the case, as someone came to disturb him. This was none other than Todoroki. First, he provokes Izuku. Between both of us, I have to say that I am stronger. I am superior in all aspects. You can't win. Arrogant bastard. Others in the class boo at this, but who cares? Small flies don't matter. And you, Yuta, I will beat you. No matter how powerful you are or how many hidden cards you have. I will beat you, Todoroki said with a serious look on his face. Okay, Yuta looked at him motionlessly and gave his best imitation of Saitama. At least say something to retort. How lazy are you? Yuta heard others shouting at him from the side. He just snorted. What's the point of wasting time and energy here? They will shut up when he beat their asses red and blue. Once again seeing the clock, he noticed that now there were only 6 minutes was left before the first round started. Sighing, he finally got up. There was no time to get that 5 minutes nap anymore. Before getting onto the track, he got to the ground and did some normal push-ups to warm himself up. 2 minutes was enough to set his blood pumping inside him. Just when he was ready to move out, he heard the sound he was waiting for. Minor quest. Race to victory. Main quest. Come first in the upcoming race. Reward. Bonus quest. Come first without using hero time. Reward. H, come on, not this shit again. Well, it's still optional, but damn. With an excited look on his face, Yuta came out to the ground, ready to take the first place. Just not sure whether he can do it without using his hero time. He was wondering when the first round would start, but that was when suddenly someone called him. He didn't react at the time, as he wasn't even paying attention to what was going on around him. He was only interested in the upcoming race and nothing more. Yuta, 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 HUH what? Come here and give a speech. Midnight said with her normal sensual smile on her face. He, on the other hand, just blinked, trying to understand what's going on. But that's when he remembered that in the anime Bakugo 2 had to give a small speech. Bastard only said that he gonna win. Pursing his lips, he thought why he wasn't informed of this, but now when he thinks about it, maybe someone did tell him and he just didn't pay attention. Most likely sleeping at that time. Sighing, he opened in mind's ChatGPT and generated a generic hero speech. Going up to the platform, he took the mic and took a long breath before starting. Everyone has an image of a hero in their heart. We all like heroes, but there are times when we must ask ourselves, what kind of hero are we? What is a hero? The definition could vary a lot, from person to person. Explaining what a hero is hard because for everyone the image of a hero is different. But there exists a common trait among those people who were actually called as a hero by our civilization throughout history. This one trait is not something we can learn in school. Either you're born with it or are taught this trait by life itself. It's selflessness. To endure pain for someone else willingly and not expecting anything in return. We don't always need quirks to have a hero in our lives. Some just need the courage to stand up against the atrocities to protect what they cherish or what they believe in life, even when they know that they can't do anything. There has been no bigger act of heroism in this world than selfless sacrifice. So yes, you can be a hero. But do you have what it takes to be a real hero? I for once am not sure yet. But that is why I am here. Until I find what I need to protect. Someone for whom I can endure anything. I will keep forging ahead. After all, that's what heroes do. Yuta wasn't sure what he was talking about. He was always bad at this kind of thing. And just like he thought, not many people reacted at first. Sometimes these complex thoughts are not for the general audience. But that's when he heard clapping. This was none other than those pro heroes who were in the stadium. Yuta just smiled back. This few clapping was infectious and was followed by more clapping, saving our young hero's face. Little did he know that maybe most of the normal civilians didn't relate to his speech, but almost all the pro hero did. They exactly knew that power doesn't make a hero. There are always times when their individual power is insignificant. There are times when even their combined might is insignificant. But only those who can stand up against that kind of odd when knowing that their own death might be completely pointless, they will mostly die for nothing. Maybe earning a few seconds of time for their comrades, are the one who earns the titles of hero. Selfless sacrifice. Exactly what the kid said. All Might mutter with a smile on his face. If Izuku has the heart of a hero, then Yuta possessed the soul. Countless retired heroes at this time, when they heard this line from Yuta's smile, they're not sure what kind of hero Yuta will be. They don't know how strong he is. But they do know that he truly understands the true essence of a hero. And with that starts the race. Everyone, after learning that it's going to be a race, was hyped and came to the starting line. Yet Yuta, knowing the plot, was thinking, should he use hero time to leap ahead of others? He had both OFA and Sharingan, but then he won't be able to get the first place. He can always go to the Izuku route as well. Pondering, he decided that at first, he won't use his quirk. Only used it when he felt that he couldn't come first. And soon the race itself started. It started with a bang. Yuta, just like many people whose quirks are not good for race, uses his own physical strength. Though he wasn't the fastest, he was still faster than anyone who wasn't or couldn't use their quirk in this race. He was faring much better than Deku at this time. The Deku's physical condition might have improved in the last 10 months or so, but Yuta was training and practicing for the last 10 years, making sure that every day he was training to survive in this crazy world with superpowers, where he himself had none. So it's needless to say that he was much better. As the entire class entered a tunnel, Yuta remembered that something happened there. He can't remember what exactly, but he knew that something going to happen in the tunnel. So he was ready. There was two ways to handle this situation here. One is to just lag behind at the start to see what's going to happen. His memory is not perfect to remember everything with accuracy. And two, well, use his quirk. Just like Yuta thought, something did happen inside the tunnel. It was Todoroki. He froze the entire road, with students included. Yuta, who was vigilant from the very beginning, survived by jumping on his students from Class 1B. Phew, knew something like this going to happen. Yuta ignored the shouting of the person who he used as a personal chair just now. He was half frozen anyway. With that said, he kept on running. He has to first get out of the tunnel before anything. It will take some time before others get out of the ice, so this was his time. Once he got out of the tunnel, he saw multiple of those 0-point robots which he saw in the entrance exam. Currently, both Bakugo and Todoroki were fighting them. Such a good thing. Now the time to use my secret weapon. Yuta laughed like a villain and squatted down. The boots he was wearing were special. They were actually rollers. He asked the school to make him one as a part of his hero costume. Last time he didn't have a chance to use them, but now he can. And being a part of his hero costume means that he doesn't even have to get special permission for them. He pushed 2 buttons at the shoes, and the rollers came out. Time to leave everyone to dust. Yuta grinned and rushed out. With the rollers and his skills, he was more than twice as fast as before. While it was hard to avoid those giant robots, Yuta was fast enough to actually avoid them. With that, he rushes out at his best speed, which in fact was only second to both Todoroki, Bakugo, and Tenya. But that is only when the road is clear. Soon this won't be the case. Swoop. Something just zoomed past Yuta. He narrowed his eyes only to see this was none other than Deku. And he was fast, like really fast, faster than him with rollers. Damn, I almost forgot that he now can use full cowling. Yuta almost facepalm. Good thing that he can't use more of OFA now. Otherwise that would have been trouble. Gritting his teeth, he quit lazing around and increases his speed. Now the fight wasn't just between him, Todoroki, Bakugo, and to some extent Tenyu. But Izuku also added in, a user of one for all. So Yuta did not give any leeway and started to work hard. Losing those bigger robots was hard, but not that hard. They are inherently slow. But after that, the students have to face the smaller robots. Yuta, thanks to his experience in the entrance exam, knew how to deal with the smaller robot without using his quirk. So when a smaller robot came in his face, he did a flying kick at the robot right at the head of the robot, breaking it and earning a big metal sheet. Guess I am playing the quirkless this time. Yuta smiled with irritation on his face. He has no idea why the system likes to give him a mission like this. So just like in the anime how Izuku used this metal sheet to win the race, Yuta took it. While Yuta was making his way towards the second obstacle of the race. Currently, both Bakugo and Todoroki were competing for the first position, while Deku and Tenya were right behind their trail. Soon Yuta was in front of the second hurdle. He caught up faster than others thanks to him having the rollers. He was still carrying the metal sheet behind him. Looking at the robes, joining a few platforms, and the deep fall. Yuta sighed. There's a net down there, of course, but still, why something this dangerous? Knowing that it's pointless to waste time, he got ready to cross. The smaller jumps were easy enough, but when it came to longer jumps, he had to use the ropes. This slows him down quite a bit, making others catch up with him. But slow and steady wins the race. While Yuta was slowly making his way through, the other students, including his classmates and teachers, were wondering why Yuta wasn't using his quirk. They knew that Yuta was much faster than what he was showing. He didn't even need a roller. And those ropes. Yuta don't even need to use ropes. He can jump just like how Deku did. And more than anything, they wonder why he was carrying a metal sheet with him. It was a body part of the robot. So although Yuta wasn't doing better than some people currently running at the front, but he was still gathering enough attention from the people who already knew him. It took him some time to cross the second hurdle, but once he did, he was once again on his full speed towards the last hurdle. He already knew what he was going to do. This was the only reason why he was carrying this big piece of steel with him all this time. Just do what the protagonist did. And beat the author if the plot armor doesn't work for him. So as soon as he arrived at the third hurdle, a field rig full of landmines, he started to work. Those mines are actually not real mines, just small explosions with pink smoke inside them. But just like in the anime, if he gathers enough of them, he can use that explosion to jump over everyone. That is why he was carrying that metal sheet in the first place. And with that said, he started to dig all the mines one by one and gather them in one place. Honestly, there is an 80% chance that this will not work. After all, things like this only happen in anime. This working in real life is hardly possible. But he doesn't know how else he's going to come first without using his quirk. Well, if this doesn't work, then I just have to use my hero time. Currently, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Izuku were fighting for the first place, while other students were also doing good and using their quirks very creatively. But in front of huge power differences, small tricks just don't work. But power or no power, everyone's speed was slowed down right now, thanks to the mines. And this was the time when all of them heard a loud bang. The explosion was enough to attract everyone's attention. Even those who were running ahead of everyone couldn't help but look behind to see what was going on. They actually should have looked up, because there was a person flying, rushing toward the finishing line at high speed. Only after someone saw it that they start to run again. Yuta, on the other hand, was ready. He timed it right, and when he was about to hit the ground again, he once again slams the metal sheet at the ground, creating more explosions and propelling him further. Now he was the front runner. With the help of his rollers, he rushes to the finishing line. Though he was still slower than others, but with the huge leap he had, there was a chance to win this thing. Haha, this shit really worked. And the winner of the first round is Yuta from Class 1, who shouted the present mic, and a loud cheer spread in the stadium. Yuta, who just crossed the finishing line, was still in disbelief. Man, this really worked. Won the race without any hero time use. Awesome, Yuta shouted. Minor quest. Race to victory complete. Main quest. Come first in the race. Reward. Plus 5 minutes of hero time. Bonus quest. Come first without using hero time. Reward. 5 super energy drinks. Hero time is fine, but what's with the super energy drinks? Forget it. It doesn't matter. Wasn't expecting much from a minor quest anyway. Yuta shrugged as he saw other participants also coming. There was a smile on his face, feeling amazing as the angry red faces of his classmates passed by him. Like Bakugo, Todoroki, etc. It feels so good to win, especially when you beat your friends. It's totally fine for a stranger to do better, just not my friend, Yuta said with a scumbag-like expression on his face and a smile. He remembers back in his previous world. He used to work hard only so that his friend didn't do better than him. He doesn't need to target the top. No, he just has to do better than his friends. Congratulations, Yuta. Don't think that you will win the next round, you smartass. I will win the next round. There were all sorts of responses from his friends, but maybe the best responses were from either Bakugo or Izuku. Izuku was falling into self-doubt. He always thought that he could do his hero job well as long as he used his OFA powers well, without harming his body. This now was a reality thanks to his training under Yuta, but even then he lost to Yuta. And he felt it. Yuta didn't use his quirk at all. It was already rolling in his mind that Yuta was the one who saved everyone back in USJ. That was the first time he realized that even after having a quirk and having some degree of mastery over the quirk, he wasn't strong enough. So he increased his training, he put in more effort, trying his best to use more of his quirk without breaking his hands. But here he was again. Yuta won the race even without using his quirk. He doesn't know the reason why sometimes Yuta doesn't use his quirk, but that doesn't matter. He is still weak. Izuku knows that and wants to change this. Bakugo, on the other hand, was even more irritated and almost lost his temper. Well, the ceiling of his temper lost is already very short, but still. The next was cavalry battle. Mainly 4 people will be forming a group, trying to get points from other teams. Basically, they will be wearing headbands with points written on them, and others will try to snatch them. But there was a problem for him. He looked around and found absolutely no one in the vicinity of his 20-meter diameter. I knew that this was going to happen, Sai. He quickly found someone who might join his team. Hey, Izuku. Sorry, Yuta-san, but I won't be able to join your team. I really want to, but right now you are my competition. Even before Yuta say anything, Izuku bowed his head 90 degrees and refuses. Hey, Achicho. Sorry, Yuta, but I joined Izuku's team, Man, this is going to be tough. Finally, after working hard for 10 minutes, he got a team. His guy Kirishima and Taktoyami came through for him. The last member, well, he once again has to go to Izuku route here and sort out Mei. The pink-hair girl with lots of babies, wink. And thus the next round of this sports festival starts. But just before the next round started, Yuta got the notification that he was waiting for all this time. Minor quest, remain in the top. Main quest, pass the cavalry battle with the highest point. Reward. This time, it's much more easy to follow. Yuta sighed with relief as he saw the next quest. All right, guys, let's make sure that we win this round with flying colors. Yuta shouted as he jumped up and got on top of his team who was ready for him. What the hell I am seeing here, folks? This is amazing. Somehow Team Yuta is evading every single team aiming for them. None of them is able to catch them, shouted Present Mike. Not only he, but the entire audience, heroes included, were stunned at how Yuta and his team were able to dodge almost everyone while saving their points. But they didn't know that they were not the only ones who were surprised. Even the members of the teams and Yuta's own team members were shocked at how their team was missing all the other teams by just a hair's length. What's going on? It's like everyone around us either gets really bad at running with super lousy aiming skills, or we are especially lucky today. Mei was the one who said this. At one point, she was pretty happy about this, but at the same time, this was also irritating her. How is she going to showcase her babies if this continued? Bastard, catch them, they are running away, said Bakugo as he failed fourth time to catch Yuta's team. What is going on? I don't understand how they are evading us by only hair's length. Todoroki sounded confused and irritated. After him, go, 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 Tenya shouted and once again ran after Yuta's team. Well, Yuta, are you the one doing this? Kirishima shouted. Me? What are you talking about? They all obviously suck at this game. Yuta averted his eyes and said with pride in his tone, It's good for us anyway. What should we do? Should we keep on running away? Tokiyami asked as he too was confused at what was going on. He was confident that he can defend their points with his dark shadow, but hardly anyone came near for him to take action. The first two just fall as they lose their balance. Few other weak teams collapse out of nowhere. Stronger teams like Bakugo, Todoroki, and even Izuku for that matter came after him, but they didn't succeed. Although against them, he got to use his quirk, but that wasn't the reason his team survived at all. It was either Yuta who threw rocks at them, totally not against the rules, by the way, they know because few students complain and get nothing or Mei's gadgets. Or at least that is what others should believe, but all those things can't take more than 40% credit for their ungodly evasion skills, shown still now. The truth of the matter was that other teams just kept missing them by a hair's length. Like they are intentionally letting his team go? This confuses Tokiyami to hell. He and Mei both. Kirishima, on the other hand, didn't care at all. Why should he? He is doing great, and so his team. If God wants them to win, then why should they question his blessing with doubts? But only Yuta knew what was going on here exactly. Those fools will never be able to catch us. This is the true power of Uchiha. Yuta took some time to enter into Itachi's character and even imitated his voice just to bring life to the character. Mangekyo Sharingan. Yuta said as his eyes were red with 3 tomos spinning in them. Well, it's just a normal Sharingan, but Mangekyo sounds cooler when said. Itachi too said Mangekyo, so calling it Mangekyo wouldn't be bad. And who cares in this world? Only he knows what is Sharingan in the first place. He can call these 6 eyes for all he cares, and no one will be wiser. Anyways, thanks to Sharingan's illusion, everywhere teams were falling left and right. All Yuta needed was for them to look into his eyes, and boom. But this also comes at a huge cost. While using Sharingan consumes hero time with normal speed, illusions are different. One proper illusion is costing him an entire minute of his hero time. Hero time, 1 hour 35 minutes. Remaining 1 hour. He looks at his remaining hero time, just in case he doesn't go overboard. He still has to fight those monsters from his class and 1B. Geez, this eye burns hero time like crazy. Yuta huff, he sounded not only he was losing hero time fast with Sharingan open and using all that illusion, but at the same time, he also found that overusing Sharingan, or maybe just the illusion part of it, also made him mentally fatigued. I believe a little training is in order after this tournament. Can't keep using these eyes before knowing what kind of side effect they put in the body. Yuta sighed as he saw the time was just about to end for the cavalry battle. They did good. The only two teams still coming after him were Bakugo and Todoroki. Well, there was just one more. That brainwashing guy. Yuta forgot his name. After spotting him, Yuta got ready. He remembers that his quirk worked with his speaking. So let's prevent him from opening his mouth, shall we? Yuta smiled as there was a rock in his hand. He didn't target the boy himself, but found a weak-looking person in his team and shot him instead. That caused their entire team to fall, getting disqualified. That was the same time when both Bakugo and Todoroki arrived near his own team. May your chance, Yuta smiled and said. Poor girl didn't get any chance to showcase her ability. This was the last trump card they prepared. Finally, time to show the world what my babies are capable of. May laughed and pressed a button, which she pulled out from somewhere. And the next second, their entire team was airborne. Both Bakugo's team and Todoroki's team was stunned at what happened at the last second. Holy smokes, Team Yuta, just take off in the air. And our destination, Yuta shouted with excitement. Victory, rest of his teammates chipping in. And that was the exact time the buzzer went off, indicating that this was the end of the cavalry battle. What kind of reward is this? Yuta, with a twitching eye, asked to particularly no one. The question might have been directed to the system itself, but there was no response. Yuta, after completing the mission of winning the cavalry battle, got his reward. But the rewards were strange. This irritated him, and while he was making noises and angry expressions, other students who happened to see him could only secretly take pictures just in case the boy made it big in the future, and they had some kind of blackmail material in their hands. Sigh, knowing that there's no point crying over spilt milk, Yuta just moves on. Not like the award he got is completely useless, only well strange. And he most likely can't use it all the time. Man, I need something to eat. Seeing that there's enough time before the one-to-one fighting starts and the recreation games between students who lost the round end, Yuta decided to get out and get something to eat. After all, he can't fight on an empty stomach. What are you talking about? Izuku said with a nervous look on his face. His heart was beating fast. The person who currently he was facing was none other than Todoroki, and he was very close to finding out about Izuku's relationship with All Might. Tell me the truth. Are you All Might illegitimate child or something? Todoroki asked with determination, like he really found out a big secret. No, that is not the case at all. I promise. Izuku flustered. This was far from what he was expecting, but this suspicion is much easier to clarify than real reality. Izuku quickly shakes his hands in front of half and half, if Bakugo vocabulary is anything to go by. While both Bakugo and Izuku had a talk, so did Endeavor and All Might. These two, after all, are the official number 1 and number 2 heroes in Japan, and to some degree rivals. Well, only Endeavor believes that. Tell me, is that Yuta kid yours? What? All Might almost choke at the certain question. What? No, that's not the case at all, All Might quickly said. But in response, he only got a snort from the fireman. It doesn't matter, Shoto will beat him. He is meant to be the greatest hero out there, Endeavor said, and after this just went to his own way. Man, that was out of nowhere. But maybe it's not completely unrelated after all. I do understand that if people think that there is some kind of connection between me and Izuku, after all, both the quirks work similarly. But Yuta, well, that a whole different thing. That boy's quirk is surprisingly similar to One for All. While this all was happening, finally the list for all the upcoming matches was announced. Maybe there are other reactions to recreation games as well. All the students who are moving toward the next round are Yuta, Izuku Midoriya, Shoto Todoroki, Katsuki Bakugo, Achiko Uraraka, Hitoshi Shinso, Eijiro Kirishima, Tetsu, Tenya Ida, Fumikichi Tokoyami, Yuga Aoyama, Hanto Shiro, Mei Hatsum, Momo Yaoyorozu, Denki Kaminari, and Ibara Shiozaki. And the matching for the third phase of the sports festival is First match, Yuta vs. Hitoshi Shinso. Second match, Shoto Todoroki vs. Hanashiro. Third match, Yuga Aoyama vs. Izuka Midoriya. Fourth match, Katsuki Bakugo vs. Achiko Uraraka. Fifth match, Denki Kaminari vs. Ibara Shiozaki. Sixth match, Fumikage Tokoyami vs. Momo Yaoyorozu. Seventh match, Mei Hatsum vs. Tenya Ida. Eighth match, Eijiro Kirishima vs. Tetsu. And with that said, the next round was about to start. Everyone was excited to get some action, even those who weren't going to participate in the next phase of the sports festival. However, while everyone was there excited and sizing up their competition, one student wasn't even there. This person was undoubtedly Yuta. "Come on, old man, stop watching the replay of Sport Festival and give me a cola," Yuta said with much irritation and anger. He has spent much time standing here and doing nothing. There were many vendors at this festival, but no one had a simple flavor cola with them. No one understands the simplicity and beauty of the classic flavor at all. All the vendors are holding some strange and weird flavors for some reason. So it took him a pretty long time to find a vendor to have the classic flavor of the cola. But the old man is slower than a turtle. This plus the huge crowd at this shop and that TV, which was distracting the old man, delaying the situation even further, was making Yuta mad. "Old man, give me some rice cracker. Are those even a thing? Old man, give me some beer. Why they have that kind of thing here? Old man, give me some water. Coming right up. Oh, come on, I came before them. Give me a normal cola, old man," Yuta all but shouted. But that was when the reply ended and the matching for the next phase was announced. "Shit," Yuta cursed. He was late. Gritting his teeth, Yuta pushes everyone aside, slams a bill on the counter, and snatches the can close to him, praying internally that it was the cola he was looking for. "Thank bye," Yuta shouted and dashed from there. "Sigh, youngster this days." "I know, sigh. Here you cola." "Huh. No, I asked for water." "Oh, sorry. Here, this is your water bottle, and you there. Here is your cola." "No, I asked for beer, old man." "Oh, blink. What the hell, man?" Yuta found himself on the fighting stage, standing against Shinzo. "Guess I really took MC position in everything." "Huh." Yuta just shook his head with a sigh. After snatching a cola from the old vendor, he did pay for it, so don't call the cops, please. He has to rush to the stadium as fast as he can. There was hardly any time to see who he was fighting. So he just had to throw the cola at the locker room and run here without even knowing who was going to be his opponent. Why his match has to be the first one. But all of his tension and stress immediately went away when he saw Shinzo. This might be the easiest fight just because he knows about the opponent's quirk. "I have heard about you. You are the topper in class 1A, don't you?" Shinzo asked. Yuta unconsciously was about to answer, but before that, he closed his mouth shut. Phew, that was so natural for him to being able to talk. It doesn't even look like he has a hint of malice in him, Yuta thought, but there was one problem. If he doesn't answer, then most probably people here will think that he is cocky. It's not like they too are the only ones here. There's a freaking audience watching them. Need to act. Yuta closed his eyes, making sure that others are taking note of his movements. Then he clapped both hands together and bowed a little, imitating like he was showing gratitude to his opponent. Seeing the sudden movement, Shinzo was taken aback. "You're acting all serious here, why? Are you not confident that you can't win or something?" Shinzo said there are not many people he can't get a response out of until and unless they knew about his quirk. After awakening his quirk, has made sure to develop his skills that way. But to do that first, at least know what kind of person he is dealing with. Anything will help. He already knows about Yuta. He is at the top of the class. Seeing this, Shinzo thought that the guy would surely be arrogant. But that wasn't the case at all. He acted quite polite. Earlier, he wanted to make him angry. Usually, the arrogant type reacts to that, but the polite kind doesn't. So now he plans to make him feel bad and emotionally blackmail him. But there was no reaction at all. Yuta was only standing there with his hands up in the boxing pose and was staring at Shinzo like waiting for him to come. He was not interested in talking and only focused on the fight. This finally makes him desperate. Yuta wasn't responding to him, and this made him suspicious that he knew about his quirk. But at the same time, Yuta wasn't attacking him either, just standing, making him believe that he didn't know about his quirk, but was just rather seriously not interested in talking. Yuta, of course, was doing this on purpose. He even narrowed his eyes and furrowed his brow, as if confused and suspicious as to why Shinzo was just talking and not attacking him. Only after a few minutes did he move, making it look like he was fed up waiting for the other party to make a move. He rushes at Shinzo. Now Shinzo, too, has learned martial arts. Knowing the nature of his quirk, there are always chances that he can't protect himself with just his quirk, so he did that. But in front of someone like Yuta, he was still too early to compete. Boom! Yuta just ran up to Shinzo and jump-kicked him, sending him out of the ring. Only after making sure that he won the match that he said, "Man, sorry, I wasn't talking with you earlier. Usually, I try to stay focused when I'm fighting. Hope you don't mind me. By the way, I'm Yuta." Yuta did a 180 there and acted like a humble classmate. Shinzo was surprised, if not anything. Once that fight was done, he wanted to go back to the locker and finally wanted to get something to eat, but Kirishima, that bastard, dragged him to the audience seat to view the next few matches. Well, I don't mind. Actually, he had enough snacks there to sustain him until his next match. Man, I just needed that cola at this point. The next few matches were not that much interesting, to be exact. Although he couldn't remember everything from the anime, but he could say that most of the matches were the same as the anime. Only after watching the matches that he realized that. Strange, but whatever. The author is too lazy to write what is already available in the anime. So here is the short version. First match, Yuta versus Hitoshi Shinso. Yuta won. Second match, Shoto Todoroki versus Hantashiro. Todoroki won. Quite a powerful bastard that guy is when he is angry. Almost froze the stage and Shiro there. Third match, Yuga Aoyama versus Izuku Midoriya. Let's be honest here, Naval Lesser stood no chance against Izuku, even if he couldn't do full cowling. So what do we expect from the current Izuku? Fourth match, Katsuki Bakugo versus Achiko Uraraka. Do I even need to explain what happened here? Fifth match, Denki Kaminari versus Ibara Shiozaki. Denki lost somehow. Not sure what was wrong with that defective Pikachu. Anyway, the girl he lost to has a watered-down version of Wood Release, so it does make a little sense. Sixth match, Fumikage Tokoyami versus Momo Yayorozu. Now I love Momo, but my boy Tokoyami took the cake here. No kidding, Dark Shadow is one hella quirk as long as it's not going against light directly. If only Momo knew that from the start. Seventh match, Mei Hatsum versus Tenya Ida. Tenya won, but in reality, Mei almost had him here. He only won in reality because Mei was only interested in showing her gadgets to the world and wasn't interested in winning the match itself. She in fact gave up the match on her own accord. Eighth match, Eijiro Kirishima versus Tetsu. This was the closest match out there, and the most boring one, to be honest. Well, Kirishima won, but wasted too much time on this. Yuta is not sure how much this result matches with the anime, but if he had to guess, then he would say that the result is pretty close. With this said, though, here are the participants of the second round of Phase 3. Yuta, Izuku Midoriya, Shoto Todoroki, Katsuki Bakugo, Ibara Shiozaki, Fumikage Tokoyami, Tenya Ida, Eijiro Kirishima. And soon enough the matching was also announced. First match, Yuta versus Fumikage Tokoyami. Second match, Katsuki Bakugo versus Eijiro Kirishima. Third match, Tenya Ida versus Ibara Shiozaki. Fourth match, Shoto Todoroki versus Izuku Midoriya. I'm fighting the Ravenhead, huh? Yuta thought. Interesting. Tokoyami is a steadfast kind of guy. With the Dark Shadows, is he quite powerful? But there are also problems with his quirk. Dark Shadow is just like a summon, and Tokoyami play a summoner here. Any summon-type character like Kankuro from Naruto, Megumi from Jujutsu Kaisen, or Tokoyami here has inherent weakness. They themselves are not as good as their summon characters. Mostly weak enough that if targeted directly they will die. The only question here is how to target him when Dark Shadow usually stay so close to him. Yuta waited, but there was nothing. Once again, there was no notification from the system. It was strange. Usually this system gives any kind of small quest, so why not now? Maybe it will only give a quest at the finals. Possible. Yuta found himself on the stage, waiting for the match to start, and against him was standing Tokoyami. Still now no quest. Strange, but can't do anything about it. Not like I'm satisfied by all the rewards I have gotten from the system in the sports festival either. Like I was a sports drink and a wig. That last one is not even something I want to think about anymore. He didn't even read the wig notification fully. Part he didn't have enough time. All that vendor's fault, and the part he wasn't just interested. Shaking his head in silence, he put his all focus on the upcoming fight. Good luck, all Yuta said to Tokoyami before the match started. Tokoyami, just like Yuta, didn't believe in much talking, just nodded his head and took a fighting position. As soon as the fight started, Tokoyami released his dark shadow and rushed at Yuta. Hero time, 1 hour remaining. Yuta quickly saw how much hero time he had remaining. If possible, he rather uses the least amount of hero time to beat Tokoyami. That would be ideal, both in just a mere game or when fighting for his life against a villain. But he didn't use OFA right off the bat. Although saving hero time is essential for him if he wants to survive, but that doesn't mean he doesn't learn more about his own quirk with just wasting hero time in mind. So rather than just punching the bird's face out of the ring, he first opened his Sharingan and targets Dark Shadow. He wanted to see whether he could influence Dark Shadow's minds with his illusion. If this is possible, then doing the same with Nomu too should be possible, right? So while making sure that he stayed away from Dark Shadow range, which wasn't much in this sunny day, he activated his Sharingan. And to his surprise, it worked. Dark Shadow, who was running around to attack him, stood at one position after he used Sharingan on him. But that was for only a few seconds at best. Just like how upon using the basic illusion on any normal human. Usually, basic illusion costs him 1 minute of his hero time, by the way, randomly putting the target in a situation where his movements will be halted. In other cases, he can completely restrain someone for a few seconds at the cost of 1 minute of his hero time. Maybe this time will rise if he is fighting stronger enemies. Maybe. Yuta was now in the testing phase, so he refrained from acting against Tokoyami. He even acted like he was confused when Dark Shadows suddenly stopped chasing him. Okay, let's try to make a custom illusion here, Yuta thought, but this time he will be targeting Tokoyami. He planned to simulate as if Dark Shadow was going out of control in the dark. Let's see how much it will cost him time-wise and how well it goes. So Yuta, after putting enough focus on his illusion and crafting what he wanted to be projected in the illusion, activated his Sharingan again. And that was enough. That almost froze Tokoyami in his tracks, completely not moving like a robot out of power. He waited for a minute, still intending to see whether Tokoyami could break his illusion or he show any kind of movement while still inside the illusion. But there was nothing. He actually thought that Tokoyami's body would act just like how he would be acting inside the illusion, but that wasn't the case. The Raven head was just standing there in a daze. After another minute, Yuta planned to act. With simple movement, he grabbed Tokoyami by the back of his shirt and threw him out of the ring. And surprisingly, that was when Tokoyami broke out of illusion, just when he hit the ground. This gives Yuta some insides about how the illusion of his Sharingan works. And with this, Yuta won the fight without delivering even a single punch. Just to see how much it cost him, Yuta pulled his status and saw this. Hero time, 49 minutes remaining. Shit. That last illusion took 10 minutes out of my hero time. That's too much. Yuta almost choked after seeing how costly custom illusion was. Maybe you should only stick with basic illusions or a more enhanced version of that. Not the custom once if possible. With a complicated mood, Yuta went back to the audience seat. Though the power itself was very good, it cost quite a bit. He can't overuse this. And besides illusion, his eyes currently were only good for close combat fighting and cheating in written exams. But he was happy. Having more powers is always a good thing. So he rejoins his friends to see the next upcoming fight. The next 2 fights were interesting, but the Yuta already knew the outcome of the fights. The second fight was between Bakugo and Kirishima. Bakugo won. At least this time it was really a fight and not a one-sided slaughter. Kirishima tried hard, but Bakugo's quirk is really kind of buggy to some degree. The third match was between Tenya and Ibara, the girl with a vine for hairs. Tenya won this easily. Maybe Ibra only won against Kaminari because she has some degree of protection against electricity. Or at least Yuta believes so. The last fight was the real interesting fight here. It was between Izuku Midoriya versus Todoroki Shoto. And to even Yuta's surprise, it went much like the anime. While Izuku didn't break his hands left and right, the mere 5 to 6% of OFA wasn't just enough to handle Shoto. And Midoriya, acting like the hero he wanted to be, made Todoroki use his fire. Once that happened, there was no way Izuku was winning. Winner Todoroki. For the last fight, only 4 candidates were left. It was getting late, so even the UA people started to hurry. The final 4 people were, of course, Yuta, Todoroki, Bakugo, and Tenya. The upcoming fight were arranged like this. Bakugo versus Tenya. Yuta versus Todoroki. This time around, Yuta was interested in all the matches. The first match was between Bakugo and Tenya, and while he knew that Tenya was no match for Bakugo, he was strong enough to make Bakugo work for it, meaning Yuta could see how much Bakugo really had improved since the last time he fought him. The fight was pretty straightforward. While Tenya was trying to capitalize on his speed, Bakugo was just blasting things left and right. Unfortunately for Tenya, it wasn't fast enough to evade Bakugo's blast. Winner Bakugo. The second fight was between Yuta and Todoroki. Finally, a little challenge, Yuta mutters. But it will go smoothly as long as the system doesn't pull a fast on him. Entering the ring was focused just like usual. Todoroki just fought Izuku before him. It's just like fighting a toned-down version of him if powers are anything to go by. Before the match started, Yuta noticed the frost gathering on Shoto's arm. He knew what this guy was planning. He did it earlier with both Izuku and that tape man from our class. Izuku had to break his finger just to protect himself. Nope, not gonna happen. Before even the match started, Yuta attacked the boy with his Sharingan, putting more power in his Sharingan. He can't say, but he may have used around 2 to 3 minutes of his time there and froze Todoroki there. Not wasting time, Yuta rushes up. Let's end this quick. OFA 5%. Yuta was fast enough that even cameras didn't catch his speed and appeared right behind Todoroki. That was the same time as well when Todoroki came out of his daze. Yuta was actually getting better at illusion. This time he didn't do the normal illusion. This time he slows down Todoroki's perception of time by using a little more hero time. It's like for those few seconds Todoroki's mind slows down, making him slow to react. This was way more natural to use as well. Todoroki or anyone else would think that he messed up back then under pressure. It's definitely better than people blackening out completely. Otherwise, people sooner or later will realize that Yuta has another quirk to hypnotize them. Well, it's not exactly hypnotizing, but he is sure that he can do that too if he learns and puts enough HT into it. Hero time equals HT. By the time Todoroki realized that Yuta was behind him, it was too late. A punch was coming right into his face. He had tried to activate his quirk, but it didn't work. It was too fast for that. And with one mighty punch, he was thrown outside the ring. Let alone him. Even the other people watching them couldn't believe how fast the match ended. This was the first time in the entire sports festival they saw Yuta actually using that kind of speed and power. Just no one can send a person flying like that, as Yuta did to Todoroki, you know. What I am seeing is the fight ended even before it could begin. Todoroki is out of the ring. Yuta won the fight, Present Mike said. Yuta just walked up to Shoto and extended his hand to pull the guy up. Showing some sportsmanship, you know. Shoto just stared at Yuta with a dazed and confused look. He knew that Yuta was strong, but this was strange. Earlier, he didn't use his quirk at all, even when fighting with others. But when he came up, Yuta shot at him as soon as the match started. He didn't say anything, just left the ring without any expression on his face. Man, what happened there? Kirishima was the first person who almost jumped on him to ask what happened in the fight. Yeah. You till now wasn't even using your quirk, and then as soon as Todoroki comes up, you go full force. Mina, too, chipped in from the side. Okay, calm down first. Yuta, seeing how everyone was shocked first, had to calm them. You see, I had to end the match quick because of how Shoto was fighting still now. If I had given him enough time, then I would have been a popsicle by now. Yuta said with a roll of his eye. Hearing this, others also kind of understand why Yuta who didn't use his quirk all this time, became so aggressive all of a sudden. "Hey, smartass, don't think that you will win this time. This time I will beat you," came a loud exclamation from one Bakugo Katsuki. Yuta just gave him a silly salute, making others giggle a little while making Bakugo more mad. Let's go. "I only have 10 minutes before the next fight starts," Yuta said as he moved. He was practically untouched, but still had to go to Recovery Girl. Damn rules. That left him with only 5 minutes. As soon as he went back to the green room, he encountered with the notification he was waiting for. Finally here. Major Quest. Quirk doesn't make the hero 2. Main Quest. Beat Bakugo without using hero time. Reward. Here it is at last. That one highly illogical and nonsense quest which complicated my life for no apparent reason. Yuta was not sure whether to be happy that he got a major quest or the sheer stupidity of not being able to use his powers. This time it's not even a choice. He just can't use it or say bye-bye to a major quest rewards. This major quest are different from a minor quest. In both difficulty and reward quality, they are much different. Now how the hell I'm going to beat Bakugo again? I don't think that I can take him off guard like the last time. Yuta sighed. Looking at the watch, he saw he only have 2 minutes before the match start. He was about to keep moving with contemplation on his face when suddenly something came to his mind. His eyes shot up. He opened his notification and saw the wig he got earlier. This is it. A grin came on his face. His eyes then looked at the cola, which he didn't get to drink earlier, and that grin almost became a smile. With swift motion, he took the cola and drank it. Spat. Shit, this cola sucks. Ladies and gentlemen, finally the moment that all of you were waiting for is here. This is the final fight of the sports festival. The present mic shouted as the entire stadium was almost at the boiling point. Everyone was eagerly waiting for the next fight. This was the final, at least for the first-year students in UA. Everyone gets ready. On the left side, we have Bakugo Katsuki, the one and only explosion head of Class 1A. As Present Mike announced, Bakugo came out of the gate with his usual explosive attitude. "What do you mean explosive head, huh? Are you mocking me, Present Mike?" Bakugo shouted as an explosion appeared on his palms. There you have it, everyone. That is our Bakugo. Present Mike didn't care. After introducing Bakugo, he shifted his focus to the other candidate. And on the right side, we have Yuta, the boy who still now has won all of his matches with absolute ease and hardly uses quirk. The present Mike said as everyone's attention was moved to the other side. There was standing one person, fully covered with a hoodie. Even his face was covered, but everyone knew that he was Yuta. Why he's wearing that long hoodie, even covering his face? A student asked Kirishima, knowing that he might be the only person who could tell what Yuta was thinking. Everyone looks at Kirishima with curious gazes. But Kirishima too just shrugged at this. He had no idea what was going on inside Yuta's mind. "I don't know. Let's just wait and see," Kirishima said and shifted his focus on Yuta. Everyone was currently waiting for Yuta to remove that long hoodie and for the match to start. What is going on, everyone? Why suddenly did Yuta decide to wear that hoodie? Is he trying to imitate a professional boxer? Present Mike said as the audience listened with intent. Yuta, on the other hand, who was covering half of his face with a hoodie cap, smiled. "What are you doing, you smartass? Stop playing around and come here so that I can kick your ass." Bakugo somehow became angry at Yuta's antics and shouted. Yuta was making him wait. He wanted the fight to start already and kick Yuta's ass. Only when he enters the fighting ring that Yuta consider removing his hoodie. So with a smile on his face, Yuta removed the entire hoodie off. Everyone was taken aback when they saw Yuta. He was topless, wasn't wearing anything on top, only pants and why he is wearing that? Someone asked. What? A confused reaction came out of midnight. This? Kirishima was wide-mouthed, not knowing what to think. Why Yuta is wearing that? Toru asked with confusion, but still liked the look. Even All Might had a wide eye after seeing Yuta's appearance. Feeling a second-hand embarrassment, he covers his face and only mutters. What is that kid doing? What I'm seeing, folks, Yuta has decided to go shirtless in this fight, but that is just the start. He is also rocking a mighty afro. Present Mike shouted as Yuta, with his well-sculpted body, stood in the middle of the stadium, rocking a mighty afro almost twice the size of his head. Bakugo looked at Yuta with a confused face. What was Yuta doing was the only thing running in his head, but he just shook his head. It didn't matter. No matter what, he will beat that smartass today. Yuta, on the other hand, just felt all the eyes on him and his eyes twitch. Why this wig has to be an afro? Yuta complained. Mighty afro. 3x base stats when not using hero time. 5x pooching power. Professional boxing technique. Asterisk minor character change. Since the dawn of time, men have debated whether the champion makes the afro or the afro makes the champion. I know you got spunk, you punk, but I ain't here to play no more. With his crown on, I leave that kid behind which I was before. Now I'm a man. Your explosion had some friction, but now I got one up here. My fists are now weapons of destruction. Yuta opened his mouth, and this just came out of his mouth like it was natural. Even he was surprised, let alone others. Everyone's reaction currently was the same. They were gawking at the huge change in Yuta with amazement. Wow, that is a huge change. What has happened in the last 5 minutes that changed Yuta this much? This fight is turning even more interesting. Present Mike shouted. The audience was also growing restless with excitement. Yuta-san seems different somehow. It doesn't look like he is acting, does he? Izuka smiled with a little embarrassment on his face. To some people, the change in Yuta's demeanor was very funny, while some who especially knew him were embarrassed. Why does the boy suddenly have to do that? And even acting like those professional boxers. And more than anything, why the afro? But that was only a distraction for a few seconds at best. Soon the audience came back to their previous demand of starting the match, and Present Mike was all for it. Midnight signaled to the match to start. You think that you're going to beat me with just wearing an afro and talking like that, then you can go to hell. Bakugo shouted and jumped at Yuta with his explosion ready for Yuta. Yuta was in his boxing stand, and just when he wanted to move away from Bakugo to avoid the explosion, his body suddenly moved on its own, like someone else possesses his body at that second. Instead of moving away from Bakugo to avoid the upcoming explosion, Yuta leaps to close the distance. Yuta's eyes were wide, and his body was moving on its own. And maybe the more interesting thing is that his body somehow found an opening in the chaotic way Bakugo fought. With a simple leap, Yuta came close and made a fist. Bakugo currently was in the air, and although he had a way to move, while still airborne, he didn't have the time. He wasn't expecting Yuta to attack rather than dodge. Boom! A mighty fist lacking an enhancement of OFA smacked Bakugo's stomach with 5 times more power than Yuta's normal punch, sending Bakugo back, clutching on his stomach as liquid came out of his mouth. Whoa, what I'm seeing. Did Yuta just one-shot Bakugo right now? Present Mike shouted in amazement. Others were also looking at this with stunned faces, but maybe none more than All Might. Besides being the most powerful hero and the symbol of peace, he is also a martial artist when it comes to boxing. He learned boxing long ago, and now, even without his quirk, he could take down some small fries if he has to. So he understood what was going on. Yuta just found an opening in just a second of Bakugo moving, showing his talent in close combat fighting. I have to say that I am impressed. All Might smirked, but little did he know that Yuta's body was moving on his own at this point. Bakugo wasn't down for long either. Only after a few seconds he'd get up with more veins popping on his face than Yuta had on his jack-up arm. Bakugo was about to say more, but Yuta's body again moved on its own. Closed the distance while still holding his hands up, imitating a professional boxer. What happened? You don't look so good. I believe it's a premonition that you will lose. Yuta did the classic movement of wiping his nose with his hand and got ready again. One punch was enough to make Bakugo send back, and the power of the punch, as the description said, was around 5 times stronger than Yuta's normal punch. Yuta's body was moving on his own, while he was quick to realize that if he continued to resist, then it will only make him slower and weaker. So for a second, he forgot that he was wearing a big-ass afro on his head. Bakugo again rushed at Yuta, ready to deliver a bit of explosion this time. Yuta, on the other, then quickly calculated how powerful the next explosion would be. Considering that Bakugo can't use an explosion more powerful than the one which makes him fly, otherwise he will be thrown outside the ring. Yuta quickly, with his afro, helping dodge out of the way on time, only dodging the explosion by a hair's length. "Whoa, that was close," Yuta muttered, and even others in the audience saw this with wide eyes. Bakugo sent another barrage of explosions at Yuta, keeping his distance from Yuta all the time. Yuta, who couldn't do anything at this point, was only dodging Bakugo left and right. Yuta, sporting his distinctive afro, danced around Bakugo's explosions with finesse, weaving through the air like a seasoned pro. "What? Is that all you can do? Come on, or are you afraid of close combat with me? Maybe last time was too much for you, huh?" Yuta said with a nasty smirk. He this time around was actually trying to get inside Bakugo's skin and make him go for close combat. Bakugo, for some reason, was keeping his distance from him. With each dodge and feint, Yuta inched closer to Bakugo while still taunting Bakugo, his movements calculated and strategic. Bakugo, as time passed, was getting more irritated and furious, so he intensified his attacks, unleashing a barrage of explosions in his anger, quickly forgetting that Yuta was inching close step by step. It was less than 3 minutes before the match started, but it felt like half an hour to Yuta, who was dodging as his life depended on it, while still trying to get close to Bakugo to engage in a close combat fight with him. Finally, he got the chance. He immediately closed the distance between Bakugo. Bakugo quickly moves his hand to fire another explosion at Yuta, but before he can do that, Yuta delivers a powerful punch in his gut. Once again, the power of the punch was so strong that it sent Bakugo back with force enough to make him dizzy for a few seconds. But this time around, Yuta wasn't planning on resisting his pro boxer instincts, which his afro gave him. He, without wasting any time, let Bakugo again make some distance to close the gap. Ready for another close combat, right? Bakugo Quirk is pretty busted on its own, considering how useful it is at both close combat and long range. But Yuta, thanks to his speed, instincts, and the boxing skills he got thanks to Afro, was matching Bakugo in close combat. Bakugo, seeing Yuta coming, was ready to blast him, but just before he could do that, Yuta, with just a tab of his punch, redirected his palm away while sending another punch at Bakugo. Bakugo gritted his teeth and grabbed Yuta's hand with one hand. So even after getting punched by, he wasn't sent back this time, though there were a few bruises on his face, but that was nothing. Bakugo, with Yuta's hand, tightly grasps his hand and gives a maniac grin, making even Yuta stunned for a second. "Don't get cocky, you bastard," Bakugo shouted and blasted Yuta back with a huge explosion. The power was enough to send Yuta flying back. He was only a little far from getting out of the ring. Cough, cough. "Man, I wasn't expecting that." Yuta groans in pain. Still, he got up with all of his might, ready to continue the fight. Damn it. What, even with the wig, working it hard to beat this bastard without Quirk? Maybe I have to use it in this fight, Yuta mutters with a helpless expression on his face. As Yuta got up, he felt dizzy. Man, that blasted a number on me, or what? He felt the world around him spinning, as it was getting hard to move the way he wanted. More like his body, which was earlier was getting controlled by his newly found boxing instinct, was strange. Then right now, the boy was completely out of control. But Yuta's temporary loss of control over his body was none of Bakugo's problem. He ran at Yuta at his top speed, and this time didn't go for his blast, but a left hook at Yuta's face, once again knocking Yuta back. Shit, Yuta gritted his teeth. That bastard Bakugo went for his face. What's going on? Can't take a punch. Now, there was a smile on Bakugo's face. Shit, what's going on? Was that one blast really enough to make me dizzy to this level? Yuta cursed as his mind was spinning while another blast came to him. But strangely, this attack didn't send him out of the bound, but rather at the middle of the fighting ring. That Bakugo, is he more interested in beating me than winning? Yuta pondered, but even more than that, he was worried about what was going on. Earlier, he was sure that even at the cost of the quest, he could just use his hero time and win the match, but now it's not looking good. What good is power if he can't land a punch? Right now, he can't even stand properly. Yuta let his consciousness slip out. He resisted hard to stay focused, but to no avail. Only after a few seconds did his vision become hazy and his eyes got heavy. It hard's almost impossible to keep his eyes open. The last straw was Bakugo. Bakugo didn't waste any time after blasting Yuta to the middle of the fighting ring and rushing at him with all of his power. A huge explosion was ready on his hand. Boom! The audience who was watching the fight was at the edge of their seats. They were super excited about the fight. The fight didn't last long, maybe 5 minutes at best, but they already knew who won. Pro heroes, on the other hand, were different. They noticed that there was something wrong with Yuta. First and foremost, he wasn't using his quirk there for some reason. Second, it was more surprising that Yuta, even without his quirk, was doing good, but suddenly something happened. What's going on? Is this the end of the fight? Present Mike said with his loud voice as he saw Yuta completely lying flat by the last blast from Bakugo. Bakugo, seeing Yuta knocked out, shouted, "What are you playing at, you bastard? You still haven't used your quirk yet. You ain't getting out of his ring before you fight me like you did to that half and half." Bakugo shouted. The only reason he didn't send Yuta out of bounds was to really fight him. For some reason, Yuta never used his quirk against him, and this was irritating him more than anything. But even after shouting, Yuta didn't move. There was no reaction. The referee, too, was about to announce Bakugo as winner. "Yuta, get up," some of his friends shouted, but again, there was no reaction. They all felt that the boy with the smoking afro, thanks to Bakugo's blast, was going to lose. But that was when they all heard a very familiar sound, a sound which brought a smile on their face. Dum dum dum. Everyone in the audience suddenly felt a chill in their heart at the start of the King's engine. Those who were used to it was better, but still knew that it's only now that the real fight is beginning. Dum 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 dum. Dum 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 dum. This sound resounded in the entire stadium. Everyone was able to hear it. The ones closer to Yuta were the most affected ones, while the effect on the audience sitting far away was much less. But even then, there was a tremble in their hearts. Normal people with nothing to do with heroes and villains were trembling. The pro heroes were different. They seemed to have sensed this kind of feeling before. The same kind of feeling that they get before fighting a powerful enemy. A situation where their life is in line. This feeling which suddenly arouses inside them, suddenly makes them feel like a dangerous villain was ready to attack them. All of them got tense immediately, looking left and right. Completely on their guard, but there was nothing besides the sound of dum-dum-dum. But this sound was putting everyone on their edge, making everyone tense. People who have experienced this before were a little better. Bakugo and other classmates of Yuta, including his teachers like Aizawa and All Might, were looking at this with a little anticipation. This includes other teachers, and Nizu has talked about Yuta's quirk extensively. They long find out the boy's background and know that when he said that he was quirkless, he wasn't lying. The boy really got his quirk only recently. There was also a chance that he got his quirk from someone, and besides All Might, who else can hand over quirks to others? Well, there's only one. All for One. This was the one and the only thing keeping the higher management of UA from fully trusting Yuta. But at least still now, they couldn't find any relation between All for One and Yuta. Anyway, besides the possible relation between the boy and the villain, the other topic the hero talks about is Yuta's quirk itself. At first, it seems very similar to All Might, to the point that many believe that All Might secretly gave his powers to Yuta rather than Izuku. But that was only until Yuta showed his real power. Everything started with his earlier fight with Bakugo. That was the first time when Yuta suddenly broke out with his sound. Then there was his fight at the USJ. That really made others believe that Yuta's powers is much more than just a power-type quirk. The problem is that still now, they had no chance to fully analyze this quirk because of how rare it is that Yuta use it. Or maybe it's a side effect of his quirk which activates whenever he is in danger. Now it's finally time to experience this quirk for themselves. Maybe this will also shed some light on why sometimes Yuta doesn't use his quirk. Dum 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 dum. As the sound of beating increased, everyone's anticipation rose. They wanted to see Yuta using this power. Bakugo, who was the closest to Yuta, almost froze at one place. This time he wasn't hit as hard as last time, but even then he almost froze a few seconds. Yuta opened his eyes, but again everything was hazy. He slowly got up but still was swaying left to right. His big afro was dancing in the wind. His eyes were unfocused and his head was down. Dum 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 dum. Though Yuta's face was still unfocused and to some extent looked a little funny right now. But Bakugo didn't care a bit. He got out of his daze from Yuta's King's Engine effect, saw Yuta on his feet, and went directly to blast him, forcing him to use his powers. Bakugo jumped high and was ready to deliver a devastating blast at Yuta. But just then Yuta moved, not left or right to avoid Bakugo, but rather he fell back on his back like he couldn't move anymore, avoiding the upcoming attack from Bakugo. But that wasn't the end of this move. The next second Yuta did, with the support of his hands, lifted his legs up, was perform a hand jump like he was using his hands to stand up again, but his legs struck Bakugo in the air, pushing him back, even throwing him at the platform. Bakugo wasn't expecting this move at all. Yuta directly targeted his solar plexus, making him gasp for breath. Yuta, after pushing Bakugo, didn't stand back again, still lying flat on the ground. Both of the fighters are lying flat, and the audience looks at this with confusion. What happened in those last seconds, many didn't understand or could see clearly thanks to Bakugo's blast setting off at the same time. But still, Bakugo was the first one to get up back to his feet. Yuta was still down, but this time around the referee didn't say anything. Yuta at the last time pushed Bakugo back. It's not right to say that he is down and out. This is not wrestling, where staying down means the opponent loses. The rules here are different. So referee decided to observe Yuta first. Bakugo, on the other hand, was furious. That one attack also knocked out all the air from inside him. So it's needless to say that Bakugo was furious. He rushes at Yuta with the intention of blasting him to oblivion, but before he could even reach it, Yuta gets up with the sheer effect of his legs, like his legs were stuck to the ground, and thought that he lifted himself up. Much like Lee fight with Kimamaru if you can't image it. And with that said, I won't have to say what's going on here, right? Bakugo rushing at Yuta stopped midway. Yuta still was looking at Bakugo with deadpan eyes, but there was a mocking grin on his face. What's going on? I thought I just fell asleep there. Yuta laughed suddenly with shaky steps. Bakugo and others look at this with confusion. While others were confused, this further angered Bakugo. Bastard, what are you doing? Stop wasting time and fight me. Bakugo shouted with small sparks coming out of his hands. Yuta wasn't listening to any of what Bakugo was talking about before. All he cared about was being able to stand in one place without losing balance. Oh, you were saying something? Yuta smiled like a certain straw hat. Bakugo eyes were bloodshot. Yuta was getting on his nerves. Wait, I know. Yuta said. WHT, Bakugo shouted. I have decided. And what's that? Katsuki Bakugo. Be my son. Huh? Son. Bakugo was baffled. This came out of nowhere. Bastard, what are you talking about? Who wants to be your son? Bakugo shouted with an explosion coming out of his hands. Yuta too didn't back down. Yeah, the feeling is mutual here, buddy. I don't want a son like you anyways. But I have to, otherwise how I will get to you, mother, The last part was just a whisper, but Yuta's face completely explains what he was thinking. And Yuta can't help it either. Bakugo's mother is a total male star. He doesn't know how many henna asterisk videos and comics he has read about her in his past life. And now, when he was high, there was no control of what he was speaking. Thankfully, Bakugo didn't hear Yuta's whisper. Bakugo didn't waste any time after this and attacked Yuta. Come to Papa. Yuta smiled nastily and took the very classic stand of drunken fist. That's what was happening to Yuta all this time. He didn't suddenly feel dizzy. Rather, he was somehow gotten drunk. To know how well, there are clues in the story, but later I will explain. Now focus on fight. Haha. Music, raising fighting spirit. Dum-dum, D-U-M-D, U-M-D, 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 dum-dum. Yuta took a boxing style, but rather than making fists, two of his fingers were out and curved. He swayed left and right while still having a swaying motion around him, making him look like a leaf. Just when Bakugo arrives, Yuta snaps forward before the blast can reach him, bending his body in an unimaginable way, his afro swaying with his all move. With swift motion, he dodged the upcoming attack, but that was only the start. With one hand, he grabs the extended hand of Bagwo, while twisting his body again to bend Bakugo's hand. And all this time, he was keeping his palm away from him. Yuta's one feet exactly targeted Bakugo's shoes, exactly where his pinky toe was. Bakugo immediately felt the pain, even after the attack was muffled by his shoe. He wanted to back off before he lost his footing, but unknown to him, Yuta was waiting for this. With the other hand, Bakugo took a step back while pulling onto his hands, but Yuta again twisted his body and was also pulling on Bakugo's hand. He turned around while putting his other leg between the huge gap between both of Bakugo's legs, and with a swift motion knocked out the leg he was holding with his feet before, knocking Bakugo down. Bakugo finally lost his balance and fell down, but before that, he sent another blast at Yuta. This time the blast was stronger than usual, only to find that Yuta was no longer in front of him. Bakugo only realized that after he blasted his front. Yuta was currently behind him, ready for another attack. Switching back to his boxing stand given to him by the afro, though, there was still a blush on his face, and his motions were still swaying around. He delivers a powerful punch at Bakugo. But this punch wasn't on the head, not on the shoulders. Yuta attacked Bakugo's ears, punching them, slamming both of his hands on his ears, making them ring. Bakugo shouted in pain. Bakugo quickly covers his ears with his hands, giving perfect a chance to Yuta to attack further. Going back to his drunken fist stand, Yuta got ready. Bakugo at this time had already gotten up and was making some distance from Yuta. But Yuta was much faster. With funky yet fast movements, Yuta approaches Bakugo. Bakugo, seeing this, gave a roundhouse kick while still keeping his hands up to support his bleeding ears. Seeing the kick coming, Yuta ducks, and while acting like a monkey, he delivers several low kicks, imitating a snake prying on prey. Bakugo, using his blast, jumped up, going out of Yuta's attack range, ready to blast the entire stadium this time around in his anger. Hiya! Bakugo shouted before gathering all of his powers to blast the stadium and Yuta with it, but before he could do that, something hit him. No, more like something came flying at his mouth, gawking him midway. This! Bakugo made a nasty face, seeing that there was a shoe in his mouth. Yuta, seeing that Bakugo was about to do something big, quickly looked around to throw at him and disturb him. But upon finding nothing, Yuta could only take out his own shoe and throw at Bagwo. And that shoe landing on Bakugo's mouth was a complete coincidence on his part. Others seeing this laughed a little. The audience once again was enjoying the fight. They all have seen enough movies to know that Yuta was imitating a very popular fighting technique called Drunken Fist. But only the pro heroes knew that Yuta wasn't just imitating Drunken Fist here, but he was near to a master level. Being a hero, they regularly practiced and fought many kinds of fighting styles, so they knew better than anyone. Bakugo, who used his blast to fly up and deliver a powerful blast, lost his chance by now and fell down. Yuta was ready there for him. Bakugo quickly turned his palms towards Yuta, coming towards him, and delivered a powerful blast, but Yuta saw that coming from miles away. What else did that explosion guy do besides blasting things? Running toward Bakugo, he was ready to attack. Bakugo tracked his movements and blasted his explosion. Yuta, who was running at full speed, was waiting for this exact movement. The movement Bakugo attacked him, he stops. Due to Bakugo's anticipated where he would be by the time the attack reached him, he aimed for a little further away from Yuta. Needless to say, the attack was missed. Hehe, I told you to give up. Be my son, and while you are at it, give me your home address and the landline number. Yuta smiles while plotting a plan to do naughty things. Bakugo, seeing this unusual fighting style of Yuta, was getting more infuriated. The match had to go on for more than 15 minutes now. This might be the longest fight till now. There was no one side which was showing a sign of giving up or one side which showed a clear advantage over the other. Both Yuta and Bakugo by now are worn out and were almost drained of their stamina. Even someone like Bakugo with an insane quirk was huffing, trying to find a way to beat the swaying bastards in front of him who was determined to make him his son for some goddamn reason. Yuta, on the other hand, was slowly getting out of his drunken state. He was able to miraculously handle all of Bakugo's attacks, which the bastard was only doing from a range, and mostly it was thanks to his drunken state. The drunken fist was so unpredictable, but even someone like Bakugo, who is already pretty talented when it comes to fighting, couldn't predict Yuta's movements. That was the only reason why Yuta could survive for this long in the first place. Yuta, as he was still pretty much drunk, somehow knew that he would be in trouble the moment his current state ran out. Knowing this, Yuta unconsciously knew that he had to end this fight soon. With that in mind, he rushes forward. If he needs to end this fight, then it has to be a ring out. There is no way that he can completely beat Bakugo right now, nor he have the time or the power to achieve that. Bakugo, no matter how much a hothead he is, Yuta has to agree that the boy is a tough bastard. He has punched him, kicked him, even put his shoe in his mouth, but the bastard just won't go down. It was much easier last time. So beating him in a straight fight when he can't use his hero time is not possible. Rushing at Bakugo, Yuta was ready to deliver his attacks. Bakugo too was ready. It seems like he was gathering power for a powerful blast. Just when it seemed like Bakugo was about to attack him, Yuta stopped midway, and just before the attack from Bakugo came, Yuta delivered a kick. Actually, he was much farther from Bakugo for the kick to connect. It only looked like he was about to deliver a kick, but in realized the only shoe which he was wearing, earlier he took out the shoe laces. Now it lost enough that the shoe came off and went directly for Bakugo. Seeing the shoe coming for him, Bakugo was a little taken aback, but due to enough distance, he just dodged the shoe. Just after he dodged the shoe, he saw the familiar afro hair so close to him that he panicked. Yuta covers the distance much more faster than he realizes. With all of his power, Bakugo sent the blast which he was preparing. Boom! The blast was powerful enough to even blind his own vision. Unfortunately for him, if he hadn't put that power in his attack, then he might have seen that Yuta wasn't even in front of him. Before the attack even ended, a shadow appeared behind him. Others could only get a glimpse of this, but Bakugo of course couldn't. Yuta, who suddenly appeared behind Bakugo, was a little different. He was no longer wearing his giant afro. Actually, to get closer to Bakugo and let him use that one attack that he was accumulating power for, Yuta had not only had to sacrifice both of his shoes, but at the same time also his boxing afro. He threw the wig at Bakugo, hoping that Bakugo felt for it, and that exactly happened. From then it was pretty easy. Yuta using the giant blast as cover got behind Bakugo. Gritting his teeth, making sure that he put all of his powers in this, Yuta grabbed Bakugo from behind and lifted him up, doing a complete 180-degree slam. Bakugo was caught completely off guard, and the impact on his head after that slam was great, but that wasn't enough to stop him. Yuta already knew, and thus immediately after that one attack, took out the shoelace he took out from his shoe earlier and bound both of Bakugo's hands together. Only then did he grab Bakugo with all his strength and throw him out of the ring. Bakugo still wasn't going down, though. The bastard basted his own hands to burn away the shoe lash and free his hands, ready to stop his descent into the ground. No, you don't. Yuta eyes widen. He too jumps at Bakugo, going out of the ring, betting everything in one shot to win the fight. Make Bakugo touch the ground first.
Hello, everyone. As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.